to use this Zoom space. There is interpretation available in both English and French. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see an icon, and you can click the interpretation language that you'd like to listen in. For audiences, if you have any technical difficulties, you can message us in the chat box. The chat box is your community space to comment. We ask that all questions be submitted in the separate Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. We will have a brief question and answer period in the middle of the day's events, and so you can submit your questions in the Q&A box. The Prolinnova IST team will be answering some of the questions in writing as well, and we will all be providing links in the chat to follow up and stay connected. This event is being live streamed on YouTube and will be recorded and available for public viewing on the A Growing Culture YouTube channel. And now to begin day 2 of the 2021 Global Farmer Innovation Fair, I'll hand it over to Peter Gubbles from the Prolinnova Oversight Group and Groundswell International West Africa. Over to you, Peter, whenever you're ready.
Microphone, Peter, microphone.
Welcome to everyone. My name is Peter Gubbles. I am talking to you from northern Ghana, where I live. I am a member of the Ghana Prolinnova country platform, and I also represent the West and Central Africa country platforms on the program oversight group. So welcome to everyone. For those of you that are just joining us, you really missed a lot of very interesting and inspiring stories yesterday. And for those of you that were with us yesterday, just a quick overview of what we discussed. We had examples of many innovations, starting in Nepal with rooftop gardens in an urban setting, and then over to Karnataka in India, where we saw a wonderful tool to lift up cassava. If any of you have had to dig out cassava, as I have, that's I'm looking to get a version of that tool. We also saw from India the development of a rice variety. Then shifting over to Cameroon, we had examples and videos of nutritious food supplements for children, and also in Burkina, supplement for healthy eating with based on moringa. Then over to Ghana, we had an example and a good video of how to process orange-fleshed sweet potato. And then over to Kenya, we had an example of a special oven for fish smoking in Kisumu area near Lake Victoria. Then over to Senegal, we had many examples, but we had an okra nursery, and we had bottle irrigation, how you can develop a garden with bottle irrigation. And then back to Ghana, we had a really inspiring story of how someone has developed botanical mixtures to prevent, almost like a vaccination or an inoculation against Newcastle disease in poultry, and also how to prevent another concoction, botanical concoction, to help deal with swine fever and to improve the health of pigs. So all of those are examples of farmer innovations. And I remember when I first came to Ghana, my own personal experience and my first exposure really to farmer innovation. I was staying in a village. They put me in a small hut, a round hut with a thatched roof. And every time I was sleeping on the mat with a small sheet, there were insects eating all the different poles that were holding up the thatch roof. It was almost like sawdust on the floor every morning when I woke up. So I pointed this out to my host, and he said, "Oh, no problem." And within that same day, he went to the bush and came back with a bunch of leaves that he attached to different poles in the roof. And lo and behold, the insects that were causing the eating of the poles all went away. And I was just amazed at that. And that was my first introduction when I came here many years ago. I won't tell you how many years ago, to Ghana, to farmer innovation. So today we're going to have another round of farmer innovation, but I just want to make a few quick remarks. For many generations, small-scale farmers have been undertaking innovations, developing seeds, domesticating plants, developing farming techniques that still provide the bedrock of the farming systems throughout the world. And I say this because small-scale farmers, according to some of the literature anyway, produce 70% of the world's food on just 25% of the land. So they are an incredibly important resource for us. And this innate capacity of farmer innovation and their very context-specific knowledge across all those farms across the world, there are 500 million small-scale farms, is a huge resource, but it's unfortunately neglected and marginalized in agricultural research and development today. And at the same time, a number of forces have accelerated the pace of change that is affecting farmers and small-scale farming systems. They include population growth, land degradation, particularly climate change, but also the use of so-called modern methods of farming, the use of agrochemicals, and the use of commodity production and value chains. And COVID-19 in particular has shown how vulnerable the current food system is in light of these changes and this integration into the global market system. So the main point I want to make in this opening introduction is that the context and in this context, the pace of farmer innovation and the spread of farmer innovations, even though it's there and even though it's a resource, is not fast enough to keep up with all these changes. And that is a huge problem. Now, it is critical, in addition to learning about these innovations and being inspired by these innovations, and more of them we'll learn of today, that we within the Prolinnova network and all of you find and apply ways to help small-scale farmers not just innovate, but to consolidate, systematize, improve, and amplify their capacity for innovation, what we'll be seeing evidence of today. Without this, we won't be able to keep pace with the changes that are affecting all of us. And that's one reason why I've joined the Prolinnova program oversight group, is because I really feel this is critical. The Prolinnova network is at the forefront, both at the international level and also at the country level, and even at the local level for sharing, learning, and advocacy in support of farmer innovation and supporting farmer ways to innovate and spread important ways of improving their farming system, not just the technical side, but also on the organizational side. So as we listen to more and more of the different innovations today, yesterday that we had, and today, please keep in mind that one challenge that the Prolinnova network has, and I hope that all of you will join, inspired by these innovations, is to undertake the policy and institutional changes in the different agricultural research and development institutions that exist in all our different countries to improve and mainstream this approach developed by Prolinnova and others to foster farmer innovation. So that's my opening statement. And I just want to do, what I want to do now is pass you on to my colleague, Ann Waters-Bayer, who is a member of the international support team for Prolinnova, who will now briefly tell you something about farmer-led research that builds on local innovation. Ann, over to you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for your introduction. And I say hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you tuning in today for the second day of the International Global Farmer Innovation Fair. Now, I'm sitting in Germany. I'm with Agricol Association. That's the northern focal point for the Prolinnova network. Now, yesterday, you saw numerous farmers, men and women, very proudly telling you about their innovations. Peter listed some of them just now. And as my colleague, Shesha, mentioned at the start of day one yesterday, recognizing and celebrating local innovation builds farmers' self-esteem and confidence. It inspires others to innovate. And above all, it provides an entry point, a positive entry point for working with farming communities in research and development. It's an entry point that focuses on the achievements rather than starting with a list of the problems and dwelling on the weaknesses and giving farmers the feeling they have to depend on outside support. Starting with recognizing cases of local innovation means starting with the issues that farmers are already working on because they've already identified problems and opportunities, and they are trying to do something about it. And this is where the energy for change lies, in exploring the potential of what farmers have already initiated. Now, starting a process of collaboration in research and development by discovering and valuing local innovation also helps to change the perception of all of the stakeholders involved. It changes how they see each other, but also how they see themselves. Discovering how and why farmer innovators do what they do makes formal scientists appreciate what local people are already trying to do to improve their situation. And also the farmers start to see themselves differently. They may not have a great deal of formal education, but they realize they're rich in knowledge and ideas. And some of those ideas aren't so crazy after all. So recognizing farmer innovation lays the basis for true partnership in participatory research, in which the partners value each other's knowledge, where local and scientific knowledge can come together on equal terms to co-create new knowledge. Now, in the Prolinnova network, we call this approach Farmer-Led Joint Research, or Participatory Innovation Development, PID. You probably heard that a few times yesterday, those of you who were with us then. Now, PID is a process in which men and women farmers and other actors, other stakeholders in agricultural research and development explore the local ideas together. For example, it could be an experiment conducted by farmers and scientists to find out which botanical substances are most effective in controlling a particular crop pest. It could be collaboration of farmers and a mechanical engineer on a locally developed device to make it easier to use or more efficient or safer. It could involve village women working with a nutritionist to explore better ways of processing agri-foods, building on local innovation. It could involve a group of livestock keepers, herders, doing a study together with a marketing expert on the meat value chain to see how the livestock keepers could gain more added value from a local marketing innovation. Now, PID on a local innovation is focused on the questions that the farmer innovators and others in the community have about that innovation. The farmers and the scientists or the development agents or extensionists or whatever you call them in your country, they design the experiment or investigation or study jointly in a way that makes sense to everyone involved. The farmers observe and record the results, not necessarily in writing. It could also be visually, it could also be with photos. The results are analyzed jointly, and ideally, the findings are documented and shared as joint publications. Now, as you'll hear today, and this is something that we in the Prolinnova network, as promoters of this approach, really have to monitor closely, that the farmer innovators are given due credit for their role in the joint research and innovation. Now, PID is an approach not only to research, but also to development. Indeed, in most of the cases of PID in our network, they involve development workers, extension workers, agricultural advisors working together with farmers, encouraging farmers to experiment with new ideas, whether local or coming from somewhere else, rather than trying to convince them to adopt techniques that have not been tested locally. So it's an approach to encourage a culture of experimentation in farming communities, trying out new things, adapting them to the local conditions. Through being involved in this process, in this PID process, the scientists and the development agents learn how to support local initiatives in ways that increase the farmers' capacity and their confidence to face new challenges, to increase their capacity to innovate. Peter mentioned that just now. And this increases their resilience to change. This means that if we come back to the same community after 10 or 20 years, we hope at least, they will not be using the same innovations that we are celebrating today and yesterday, this week, but rather that they have continued to innovate and to adapt in response to new changes. And that will be a sign that the local capacity to innovate was indeed strengthened. Now, this kind of farmer-led joint research initially needs facilitation, and it's often done by non-governmental organizations, by NGOs. Facilitation so that farmers and outsiders can learn to interact as genuine partners, especially until farmers, including women, with less formal education, gain the skills and the confidence to assert themselves in communication and negotiation with formally educated scientists. And also so that the partners can learn to be, the scientists can learn to be partners in the research rather than trying to take control. And there is a tendency of scientists to try to do that. Now, one way to assure that control of the joint research remains with the farmers is to give the farmers access to funds for local research. Now, our network, the Prolinnova, we've often worked with local innovation support funds or facilities, LISFs, as we call them for short. These are managed at community level. Men and women farmers, individuals or groups, they propose local experiments or studies to a local fund management committee. And this committee selects the proposals to be supported through the LISF. The resources may be used for some materials that are needed for the farmer-led research, could be used to help finance outsider scientists, extension agents to come in and support the farmer-led research. It could be to help the farmers access further information that they need. The idea is if the community controls the research funds, it's much better placed to determine what kind of research is done. And we actually argue that a part of the public funding for agricultural research should be allocated to such decentralized, community-managed funds to support research led by local farmers. And in that way, publicly funded research would become more relevant for small-scale family farmers. Now, today we're going to hear not only about farmer-led research, but also about how this approach can be integrated into mainstream agricultural research and advisory services and higher education. Now, Peter said it just now, mainstreaming this approach requires change in the policies of research and advisory institutions. It requires new procedures and criteria for approving research projects. It requires new ways of assessing and rewarding staff performance. To be able to engage in farmer-led research, scientists and development agents need to shift from seeing themselves as the knowledge holders to being partners of farmer researchers. And bringing about this change in attitude, in mindset, in behavior is a very long process. And it requires training and mentoring and experiencing a different way of doing things and frequent reflection on this experience of interacting with farmer researchers. Also, universities need to apply methods of experiential and participatory learning that link students and farmer researchers, farmer innovators. They need to transform curricula and to find creative ways to involve innovative farmers and farmer groups in students' learning cycles. Now, today we'll hear some examples of this too. This type of learning will prepare the students as future professionals who are open to engage with small-scale family farmers in participatory research and development. Now, if all of this can be achieved, we will achieve the vision of the Prolinnova network. And that is a world where women and men farmers play decisive roles in research and development for sustainable livelihoods. So now I'll hand over to Shesha Retasina, and she'll moderate the first session with farmers today. And this is a session on local innovation and experimentation by women farmers. Shesha, over to you.
Mute myself. Okay, here we are. Thank you very much, Anne. And yes, I was, are we okay to go? Yeah. Okay, so we are going to start today by actually doing the first session on women's innovation and women's experimentation. Now, we did see yesterday that there were several women innovators who shared their experiences. But why are we actually doing a session for women innovators in particular? Now, as you all know, women do a lot of things all the time. Wherever in the world you are, women are juggling several things at the same time. Now, in small-scale farming communities, women are incredible multitaskers. You know, they are generally in charge of the homes, doing all the domestic work. They are also doing all of the caregiving, taking care of kids, taking care of the elderly, also the sick. So they have a lot on their plate already. And then in farming, they also do a lot of work. And some of this is often invisible. And I have to say, some of this work is also backbreaking. So you see women doing things like planting, transplanting, weeding, watering, almost always collecting fodder, milking animals. They're often there when it's harvesting, processing of crops. They're also often on the markets selling produce. So, I mean, the list goes on, and they do so much. And what we see now as a trend also is that women are also taking over some of those roles that were traditionally men's roles, because men are moving out of these communities due to various issues such as climate change, civil conflicts. And you see women nowadays in many communities where women did not plow, they are plowing. So you see these changes happening, and you see that women are taking on a much larger role also in agriculture. But as always is the case, they are not always noticed, and they are almost always disadvantaged. And therefore, in Prolinnova, we say that we need to give special attention to women innovators. I remember in the early years when we started doing this work in the Prolinnova network, we found in some countries, partners would say, you know, they always came up with men's innovations. And then when we said, well, what about the women? I remember clearly some people saying, but women don't innovate. Like, excuse me? So then we had to say, well, are you looking in the right places? Are you talking to the right people? And, you know, you had to stimulate people to go out there and look for those women's innovations, which are abundant, but you need to see them, as we said yesterday. And so over the years, we have made it a sort of, we give special attention to women innovators. And today we are going to have 3 women innovators in this session. 2 of them are from Kenya, and they have been involved in Pharma-Led research to improve their innovations. And we are going to be joined by 2 facilitators, Martha Opondo from Kenya and James TJ from South India. So now I'm just going to hand over to Martha to have a conversation with the first 2 women innovators. Over to you, Martha.
Thank you, Chesha. My name is Martha Opondo. I work for Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization. And like Chesha has said, I will be here with the 2 farmer innovators from Kenya, one from Western Kenya and the other from Eastern Kenya. So our first farmer innovator today is Rebecca. Yes? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, so our first presenter today is Rebecca, and we will request Rebecca to just give a short introduction of herself. Very short, Rebecca, just your name and a few things, and then we can go to the video and possibly have a short discussion within our 10 minutes. So, Rebecca?
Okay, kuom nyinga iluonga ni Rebecca Auma Dero.
My name is Rebecca Auma Dero.
I'm a community health volunteer.
I'm a community health volunteer.
With 57 years old.
Okay, for 7 years now.
57 years old.
Oh, I'm 57 years old.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we can go to the video, and then we will be able to discuss the other things about the innovation after the short video by Rebecca.
My innovation works this way. There is a sack where I plant the vegetable. Normally, I plant different vegetable. I can plant skuma or the nightshade. Any vegetable that is easily to plant, I normally plant there. If I plant there, that is the kit that carries water. That is the pipe where after planting, in the morning, I just open the water The water will circulate there for some times, then I stop it. I go on my ways to do some other activity. In the evening, if I came back, if I found that there is need to open the water again, I normally do it for a few minutes or to 30 minutes, then I stop it. My vegetable normally grows very well, and they are very healthy, and they normally help me and some other my neighbors. If somebody came and asked you, can you give me a vegetable, you can give for free, or if she needs to buy, she can buy. At the time I started it, I think of what can I do so that I spend a little water and a little time. Because if you carry the 20 liters of water you pour in the garden, after, if the drought is there, after a few minutes you will see the garden is dry. So it seems like you have never put there water. So I came with that method to drip the pipe so that I put a hole on it round, and I circle it round the stems of, or the roots of the vegetable. So if I do that, I find that every vegetable get enough water rather than what you can just throw or pour, and then after sometimes that water is dry. So I do it like that, and I find it is easy, and I spend a little water rather than using the one we used to pour. I normally go door to door, health education about how we can get green vegetable fresh from our normal gardens. I would like to extend to other communities, other districts, telling them or teaching them how to use this technology so that in our province or in Kenya, people can have zero malnutrition.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. We will go to questions. So Rebecca, you can unmute. We will go to questions. Unmute. Rebecca? Okay. So for I will ask Rebecca questions in the local language, and I'll translate it back to all of us in English. Ko Rebecca, inyalo wacho ni innovation nini osekonyi gang'o kaka ng'ama miyo kaluwore gi tijeni mapile mag ot gi mag menyo kaachiel kod yuto ni mapile.
Innovation nani osekonya e oda gi family na, omiyo nyithindo kata nyikwaya gigro healthy nikech wachamo alot mowinjore e seche te. Osekonya nikech kata ka onge pesa ka uso alot tayudo pesa manyalo konyorago. Bende osekonya nikech kata ka awuok aselose ma obedo maber tawuok adhi tiyo tijena, koro aonge paro moro ni gika okethore, chien alot okethore. Nikech ang'e nasetimo gimonego atim kaduogo to alot na dhi adhiya maber.
Okay, so the question was how the innovation has benefited her as a woman, and she says, first of all, it has benefited her in terms of household nutrition. Secondly, she's able to have excess vegetables and she can sell and earn an extra income. And thirdly, that irrigation system has given her a little bit more free time in her hands, so she can leave once she sets it up, she can leave the house she can leave her homestead and go and attend to other duties outside the home while she's confident that her vegetables are doing okay. So penjo machielo, Rebecca, inyalo wacho ni innovation ni isepime ne jok moko maromo nadi kata mana joma chalo nadi to moloyo jok ma mine be ipime ne jomoko be winje?
Asepime ni ji winje, kendo asedhi kode, asepuonje women groups. Tie women groups ma kilimo gi tiyudo ka jomoko kuom gi ose adapt kendo ging'eyo gima gitim, kendo giwacho no ber, osekonyogi.
Okay, so the question was whether she has shared it out, and she says that she has taught it to other women, especially in the women groups, and there are a number of women groups who have already adopted the innovation and it is assisting them in their normal vegetable production. So Rebecca, penjo machielo. Penjo machielo. Ki wuotho oko kata kuonde miwuothe women groups, be iseyudo ka joma mine mamoko be temo timo innovations magi makendgi mopogre kata gi mari mitimoni?
Okay, aseyudo moko timo mopogore, aseyudo moko loso matunda ka gikete sak kaka naketo mane sak no. Be moko ba yudo ka kete gunia ma just normal kaka gunia mar simiti do ka gikete alot tineno ka timo maber.
Okay, so the question was whether she has witnessed women experimenting on their own, not necessarily adopting her innovation, but trying to experiment in other ways. And she says, yes, there have been women who are also trying to experiment on their own, doing many things, and including vegetable production, and also adapting different types of materials depending on what is available in their locality. So Rebecca penjo mogik, bedo ni in kaka ngama miyo mani kende, nyalo bet ni intiere kod challenges moko ma in kaka small scale innovator experience. Ineno kata gik moko ma samoro nyalo wacho ni chandi kaluwore gi weche mag innovation kata weche mamoko moluwore kod tije mitiyogi. So in kaka ng'ama miyo, inyalo wacho ni gin ang'o gang'o mose
Internet ni ok winjre.
Hello.
Hello, kora winji.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Hello, Rebecca.
Awinji.
Okay, apenjo ni ya, isebet gi challenges, isebedo gi challenges machalo nade kaka ng'ama miyo. Ma wanyalo wacho ni the small scale innovator.
Okay, challenge masebedo go as a innovator en mana kaka nyalo stopi. Mar ariyo en ni anyalo gombo mondo adhi apuonj jowetewa kata mabor gi kama antie, but kaka nyalo dhi machop kuro mondo mi joka be apuonj mondo ng'e gima timore mondo gin be gitim. Mage challenges maneno. Mar adek en ni innovation nitie ka ng'ato dwaro na expand, nitie tiye moko manyalo tamo ng'ama dhako tiyo mabiro chuni ni dwar ng'ama dichuo mondo okonyi.
Kaka ang'o minyalo dwaro ni ng'ama dichuo mondo okonyi?
Awach for example, ka adwaro keto kama duong' tadwaro ni mondo timne fence kata ichiele gi kudho kata ng'o. Ng'ama dhako ok anyal tong'o kudho machiel go kamoro malach mondo aketie gimoro, dwaro ng'ama dichuo. Koro mano biro hitaji nyaka iti kod pesa mondo itim ang'o kilose. Kaka wach pi. Yeah.
Okay, so the question was the challenges that she has experienced as a woman who is on her own. Rebecca is a widow, and she says the first and foremost is water storage is limited, kind of. So even as much as she's conserving water and she's able to do much with little, she probably would wish for a little more storage capacity. And she also says that she would wish to reach out to many more women to be able to see. At the moment, she's not able to do that. She's only able to do it within the locality where she works. And thirdly, she talks about some activities that she cannot be able to do as a woman. Like if she needs to fence, she needs additional labor to do that, and probably from a man, which she's not able to get for a moment. And possibly the last question, Rebecca, nitiere jok madwa ng'eyo gima nomiyo kata kaka ni chako innovation en gima ni tuo morigo, en gima ni neno kuom ng'ato, koso nobedo nadie kichako?
Gini nachake kana ote household maker, nayudo ka nyithindo nigi shida mar malnutrition,
Koro napenjora ne nang'o madwa tim nikech my area ne ji ok cham alot, be alot no ne onge, ne ging'iyo gomena. So mane omiyo nabet piny maparo nalos gima nyalo kelo alot machiegni kinde duto mondo ji ocham alot, mondo ji one ber mar alot, mondo watiek shida mar malnutrition in the community. Mane omiyo nachake.
Okay, to sak garden ni modify gang'o? Ni chako nang'o kore kichopo kama intie gunia no?
Nachako mokwongo gi gunia, just normal gunia miketo ga oduma. Then utieko sama few months to barore, koro chieng' otuoye oyiech. Then the world neighbor kanobiro siri, waloso group miluongo ni Rudi. Then ne gimiyowa polythene bags. Koro achako gi polythene bags no. Taneno kodhi maber. Then the Prolinnova come up. Then kore momiya sak matiyogo nyaka sani. Okwamo kendo. Network ni okwamo.
We're having some technical difficulty here with Martha. Okay, you're back.
Somebody wanted to know how she started. So she said while she was on her community health, who is Benigna? Oh, you can't hear me? Yeah, I'm saying we can now move to Benigna. Benigna.
All right, Benigna. Where is she? Okay, there we are.
Here I am.
Yeah, okay. So Benigna is a small-scale innovator from a village called Ndekini in Makueni County, and this is in eastern Kenya. And together with her husband, they produce fruits and vegetables. And today she's going to give us a presentation on her innovation, which is about a fruit fly trap that she uses to control pests for her fruits. So Benigna, perhaps you can introduce yourself before we show the video.
Okay, I'm Benigna Mumbua from Kenya, Makueni County, Kilome Division, Gekini Village. I'm a farmer and I'm a small farmer where I do with organic fruit fly trap.
Okay, so we can show the video.
Huh?
I do the farming with the assistance of my husband, who is here, and we like to improve our community by using organic farming. What made me to do this innovation? I was sometimes going around my farm and I see a lot of fruits which are just on the ground due to insects, and I had not enough money to buy the Angropet medicines. So I decided to do something to see whether I can prevent it. I do with fruits. For example, here I have a avocado fruit, which I have used the organic fruit fly, and it's doing on well.
How do you make your local organic fruit fly trap?
These are the materials I use to make the juice. I use lemon. These are lemon juice. I use the juice. I also use honey. 1 glass of lemon juice, I add 1 tablespoon of honey, and I use 2 glasses of water. I add together and I stir well so that I make this juice, which I use it as the medicine I use. I go on, I use local materials. These are the bottles we use for water. I just do holes all around. Halfway, I do holes whereby the insect comes and gets in. and they are being trapped. I used it by hanging. Insects get inside the bottle. They know they don't fly away because they are being trapped by the lemon juice which is inside the honey and the water. Thereby, I use the insects to feed my young chicks at home. For now, it's doing on well, because when I go around the farm, even if you find fruits which are falling off, they are so few. It's not like there before.
Okay, thank you Benigna. Sasa nitakuuliza maswali machache alafu utajibu na nitakutafsiria.
Okay. Shida ni wapi? Network.
It's okay. It's working. Okay, you can continue. You say this one.
Yes.
I think we are having some kind of technical interruptions here. Martha, should we try to move on to the Indians? No, I think we...
has internet.
All right. So basically what we can do now is I will request James to come on. James, are you there? Okay, so we'll have James and see whether at the end of it, whether we can go back to Benigna. All right, over to you, James. James, you got to unmute.
Thank you, Trisha. I'm very happy to introduce our innovator, Mrs. Simi KV. She is from Kannur, Kerala. She has developed a simple method of rooting in pepper. Pepper is one of the major crop in Kerala. It is propagated by stem propagation. And rooting of the pepper is usually done by applying chemical application. And he has developed a very herbal method for rooting of pepper. Can you show the video? After that, we can talk. We can ask some questions to Simi. Can you show the video of pepper rooting? Hello,
Julia. Okay.
This is Simi KV. It's a very simple method.
നിങ്ങൾ ഇട്ട് വയ്ക്കുമോ? ഇങ്ങനെ ഇട്ട് 12 മണിക്കൂർ. ഒരു കട്ടിങ്സ് കൊണ്ട് ഇട്ടിട്ട്
Simi കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ?
കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട് സർ.
Simi, this is Simi. She is from Kannur of Kerala. She has developed this simple method of propagation of pepper. ഞാൻ കുറച്ച് ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കാം മലയാളത്തിൽ, എന്നിട്ട് അത് ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലേക്ക് ഞാൻ ട്രാൻസ്ലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം. ഈ കണ്ടുപിടുത്തം എന്താണെന്നൊന്ന് പറയാൻ പറ്റുമോ? എന്താണ് ഈ കണ്ടുപിടുത്തം എന്ന് ചുരുക്കി
പറയാം. അതായത് ഒരു നഴ്സറി നടത്തുന്ന വ്യക്തിയാണ് ഞാൻ. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ നഴ്സറിയിൽ ചെടികൾക്ക് വേര് പിടിക്കാനും പെട്ടെന്ന് മുളയ്ക്കുവാനും വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഉപയോഗിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരുന്ന ഇളനീര് വെള്ളമോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ IBA എന്ന ഹോർമോണോ ആണ് യൂസ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ ഇത് രണ്ടും കോസ്റ്റ്ലി ആയതിനാൽ, എന്നാൽ നമുക്ക് ഒരു ഫാർമറെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് എത്രത്തോളം കോസ്റ്റ്ലി കുറച്ച് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും എന്ന രീതിയിൽ ചിന്തിച്ചപ്പോൾ പല ഈ മുരിങ്ങ, ചീമക്കൊന്ന ഇതുപോലുള്ള പല മരങ്ങളും പെട്ടെന്ന് മുളയ്ക്കുന്ന മരങ്ങളെ കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ആ മരങ്ങളുടെ ഇലകൾക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു കഴിവുണ്ടാകും ചെടികൾക്ക് മുളയ്ക്കുവാനുള്ള എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു സാധ്യത അതിന്റെ ഇലകൾക്കോ അതിന്റെ നീരിനോ ഉണ്ടാകും എന്ന് ഞാൻ ചിന്തിച്ചിട്ട് അതിൽ നിന്നും പല ഇലകളും എടുത്ത് അതിന്റെ എംഷനുകൾ യൂസ് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കി. അതിനകത്ത് പ്രധാനമായിട്ട് ചീമക്കൊന്ന മുരിങ്ങയായിരുന്നു കൂടുതൽ യൂസ് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കിയത്. കാരണം അതിന് ആ ചെടികളുടെ കമ്പുകൾ എവിടെ ഇട്ടാലും എത്ര ഇതായി കിടന്നാലും വേഗം മുളയ്ക്കുന്നതായി കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് അങ്ങനെ നോക്കിയത്. അതിൽ മുരിങ്ങയിലയുടെ എംഷൻ, അതായത് തലേന്ന് വെള്ളത്തിൽ, അതായത് ഇളം തളിര ഇലയെടുത്ത് അത് രാത്രിയിൽ വെള്ളത്തിലിട്ട് വെച്ച് അത് രാവിലെ അത് നന്നായിട്ട് പിഴിഞ്ഞെടുക്കുന്ന ആ വെള്ളം എടുത്ത് ആ വെള്ളത്തിൽ നമ്മൾ നടാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്ന ചെടിയുടെ കമ്പുകൾ മുക്കി വെച്ച് അത് പിന്നീട് നടുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ IBA ആണെങ്കിലും ഇളനീരാണെങ്കിലും യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിനും കാട്ടിയും 99% അതിന് മുളയ്ക്കുന്നതായിട്ട് കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. അങ്ങനെയാണ് അത് ഞാൻ യൂസ് ചെയ്യാൻ കാരണം.
ഞാനത് ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലേക്ക് ആക്കാം. What I have asked is that what is the innovation? I asked her to describe the innovation. She was saying she was an entrepreneur. She was running a nursery, so rooting is very important for her. Usually, either tender coconut water from tender coconut is used for sprouting the roots, or they use a chemical fertilizer IBM. These two are very costly. A small farmer can't afford. So she was thinking some herbal or simple method for rooting of pepper. So she know that this moringa has very good ability. Even we put some stems or stems of moringa on the floor, no, within 2-3 days new leaves will sprout out. So that triggered her. It has some efficiency to rooting of stem. So she tried that. She collected the leaves of moringa and put it in the water for 12 hours and dipped the pepper stems in that water, and she found that the roots are coming out from the pepper. I will ask the second question. How long you have been, എത്ര നാളായി ഇത് ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങിയിട്ട്, എത്ര ആളുകൾ ഇത് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, ആരൊക്കെ അവിടെ വന്ന് ണ്ട്, കൃഷിഭവൻ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ആളുകളൊക്കെ ക്ലാസ് എടുക്കാറുണ്ടോ, അങ്ങനെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളൊന്ന് പറയാൻ പറ്റുമോ?
ഇത് യൂസ് ചെയ്യാൻ തുടങ്ങിയിട്ട് ഇപ്പൊ 7 വർഷമായി. പിന്നെ ആദ്യമായിട്ട് ഈ ഒരു കണ്ടുപിടുത്തം പുറത്തേക്ക് പറഞ്ഞത് സ്റ്റേറ്റ് അവാർഡ് കമ്മിറ്റിക്കാര് വീട്ടിൽ വന്നപ്പോഴായിരുന്നു. പിന്നീട് സ്റ്റേറ്റ് അവാർഡ് കിട്ടിയപ്പോഴും പല സ്ഥലങ്ങളിൽ വെച്ച് ക്ലാസ് എടുക്കാൻ വിളിച്ചപ്പോഴും ഈ കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയുകയുണ്ടായി. പിന്നെ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി തലത്തിൽ ക്ലാസ്സുകൾ കൊടുക്കുന്ന ഫാർമേഴ്സിന് അവിടെയുള്ള പ്രൊഫസർമാർ ക്ലാസിന്റെ ഇത് അവരോട് പറഞ്ഞു കൊടുക്കാറുണ്ട്.
I asked that how long back she has developed method and how she conveyed the news to the other community and how it is diffused. And she was saying you are developed around 7 years back, and she got a award from state government as a best women farmer. For that award, committee visited her house, and during their visit she communicated this simple method to them, and this they have communicated to other state universities and other formal institutions, and they used to call him for seminars and training programs, and she used to take classes about this method. So she has conducted several training programs, and she communicated these methods to the farmers, and large numbers of farmers have adopted this method. ഇനി എനിക്ക് ചോദിക്കാനുള്ളത്, ഒരു സ്ത്രീകളുടെ എന്റർപ്രണർ ആണ്, സ്ത്രീകളുടെ ഒരു കണ്ടുപിടുത്തത്തിന് ഉള്ള ഒരു സപ്പോർട്ട് നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലുണ്ടോ? അതിനെ കുറിച്ചൊന്ന് പറയാൻ പറ്റുമോ? സ്ത്രീകൾക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും സപ്പോർട്ട് കിട്ടുന്നു, ഇങ്ങനെ ചെയ്ത കണ്ടുപിടുത്തം കിട്ടുന്നവർക്ക് സപ്പോർട്ട് കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ടോ? അതിനെ കുറിച്ച് എന്താ പറയാനുള്ളത്?
സ്ത്രീകള് എന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചിട്ട് മാറ്റി നിർത്തുന്നതായിട്ട് എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയിട്ടില്ല. നമ്മുടെ കഴിവുകളെ പ്രത്യേകതയായിട്ടൊന്നും കാണുന്നില്ല. എല്ലാവരെ പോലെ തന്നെ സ്ത്രീ ആണെന്ന് വിചാരിച്ച് മാറ്റി നിർത്തുന്നതായിട്ട് കണ്ടിട്ടില്ല.
I have asked that as a women innovator, she is getting recognition or support from the formal institutes or formal sector. She was saying that there is no difference between male innovator and women innovator. Both are considered equally. So she didn't find any distinction between male innovators and female innovator. ഇത് കൂടാതെ വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും കണ്ടുപിടുത്തങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടോ? ഇത് കൂടാതെ വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും കണ്ടുപിടുത്തങ്ങൾ നടത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ടോ?
വേറെ ഒന്നും പ്രാക്ടിക്കലായിട്ട് വന്നിട്ടില്ല. കണ്ടുപിടുത്തങ്ങൾ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇതൊന്നും സക്സസ് ആയിട്ട് പറയാൻ മാത്രം, പുറത്തു വരാൻ മാത്രം ആയിട്ടില്ല. പുതിയ ക്രോപ്പുകളൊക്കെ
I have asked that whether she has developed any other innovations related to farming sector. She told that she has tried several methods, but this was most successful, and this is highly appreciable by the farming community. ഇനി എന്തെങ്കിലും വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും പറയാനുണ്ടോ? ഇതൊരു ഇന്റർനാഷണൽ ഫോറം ആണ്. ഇതിനകത്ത് സിമിക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും പറയാനുണ്ടോ?
പ്രത്യേകിച്ചൊന്നുമില്ല.
She's thanking the network. The Prolinnova network get an opportunity to interact with the innovators from all over the world. She specifically thanks the network, Prolinnova network, for this opportunity. Thank you very much. Nandi, Simi. Thank you. Over to Desha.
Okay, thanks Joe, and thanks Simi for your presentation. It's lovely. I'm just going to take 5 minutes more to see whether we can get back Martha and Benigna, because there was an interruption. Martha, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, take over, and I'll give you 5 minutes so that you can at least ask a few questions from Benigna.
All right, I'll keep my video off to conserve network.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so Benigna, wangependa kujua umekuwa na manufaa gani ukitumia hii innovation yako ya fly trap? Umepata manufaa gani kwa familia yako?
Nimepata kwamba nimepata usaidizi wakati niliuza matunda yangu, nimewalipia watoto karo ya shule na nikajisaidia na mahitaji yale mengine ya kinyumbani.
Okay, so my question was, what have been the benefits of her using the fly trap? And she says her income improved and she was able to take care of issues like school fees and other household needs. Na Benigna, umewahi kusambazia wakulima wengine sana sana akina mama pia waweze kujua kutumia hii innovation yako? Hello? Benigna? Oh my God.
Well, I think that, I think this
I think her connection
is not very good. So I think we have to actually stop now. Thank you. It's a pity that we can't speak to her, but we'll have to try another time. Thank you very much, Martha, Rebecca, Benigna. Thank you very much, James and Simi. And I am now going to conclude this session and hand it over to Bernard Triumph, a long-term friend, supporter, and also a member of the Prolinnova Oversight Group. Over to you, Bernard.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Shesha, for handing over. I'm happy that I woke up even if my alarm didn't wake me up. So I am on time. I am going now to introduce this session on the farmer-led research, or the interaction between farmers, researchers, and advisors. And I am going, and I'm not sure it was a good idea, but I am going to share some slides with you to introduce the topic. So please give me the screen. I need to have the screen, and I can't. Okay, seems like am I getting it right? No, it is disabled by the host. So can you give me the possibility to share, or should I go without slides?
Yes, just
you can try now.
I am trying. It seems are on their way. You tell me, are you ready? Can you see me? Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see them.
Yes, can see.
Excellent. So it takes me longer than I expected, but we are getting there. You should see it. Okay, now it's just a very short introduction. The idea is obviously to share and to have the farmers explain to us what their experiences have been. The first thing obviously to say is there is a huge diversity of situations and experiences. So it's difficult to say that things always work like this. There are good experiences, there are bad experiences, but most of the time maybe the relationships and the synergies between the different types of people are not optimal. So usually, well, to make sure, many farmers, they never interact with extension people, and even less with research because they don't have any around them. But when there are interaction, it's usually part of the delivery of advisory services. It can be during participatory research where researchers come to the communities, and it can be part, as has been explained initially, of participatory innovation development, or maybe of some local innovation support funds. And a lot of this interaction takes place within the context of project, which is an important tool to allow interaction to happen. Now, why would interaction and collaboration be useful? Usually it's because each side has access to the other's ideas, to the other's knowledge, to their networks of contacts. So farmers gain from the contact from researchers and vice versa, access to inputs, to resources, to funding. There is mutual capacity building, there's refining, improving the innovations, maybe better outreach and diffusion, and maybe the visibility and recognition. So all can be advantages. However, things can go wrong. For example, the researchers say, it is my project and we will do as I say, so they take power. Each side say, I don't understand what the other is telling me, because we don't speak the same language, because we use words that the other don't understand, or we use a way of talking about things that the other side doesn't understand. Then the researcher or the advisor will tell the farmer, you don't know, I will show you. So they kind of put themselves on the fore and leave the farmers behind. Both also all say the results are mine, and they don't really like sharing, or they are not sure if they should share, or maybe one take advantage of the other results. So there is some misunderstanding here. And the issue of per diems. Some people say, if you don't give me per diems, I won't come to see you. So all this makes the relationship or the interaction difficult. Now, when you think about what needs to be considered, what needs to be clarified, to be negotiated for a fruitful interaction between farmers, researchers, and advisors, there are a few issues you have to take very seriously. The first one is who decides what in the work you do. So the issue of power. The second one is who does what, which is how do you distribute the task between the different people who are involved. Another one is who knows what, which is which knowledge are we going to make to use to advance the innovation. And of course, you have the farmer's knowledge, you have the researcher's knowledge, you have the advisor's knowledge. Another thing is how do we get things done, which is how the methods we use to move forward. Another one is who owns what, which is the issue of the results, the issue of recognition, the issue of credits. The last, maybe last, or could be first, who pays for what, which is the funding, the cost, the risk sharing. So all this needs to be carefully considered to arrive at an agreement that all sides will feel satisfied. So in terms of opportunities, maybe today for easier effective interaction, what can you do? And it's not necessarily do as new, you link up with like-minded researchers or advisors as the farmers. Obviously, the idea of developing and taking advantage of this program for funding local innovation, inviting students from university, not only university, technical schools, and their advisors, not only the students, to work with on-farmer innovation. And we will see more in the next session, and make fuller use of social networks, smartphones, WhatsApp, whenever connectivity is reasonable. So that was just the introduction. We have 3 experiences for today. The first 2 will be facilitated by Yetoa from Prolinnova, Cameroon. There will be Serge that will tell us about local multiplication of bee colonies in Cameroon. And when he tell us the interaction he had with researchers or advisors, there will be Miss and Mrs. Ekani, who will tell us about their experiences with reducing the bitterness of chocolate by using a local source of potassium. And then we will go over to Kenya, where Vincent Mariado from Prolinnova will introduce to us Miss Joël Tete and Mrs. Tete about a local chicken incubator. So we will start first with Jean Etoa from Prolinnova, and he will ask farmers a number of questions, and all farmers were prepared about a number of questions. How do they interact with researchers or advisors? The benefits they derive from this collaboration, the challenges they may have run into, and some suggestions or recommendations they have for researcher or advisor who would be interested in interacting with them. Etoa, I give the floor to you. Are you ready? You need your mic. Perfect.
Oui, allô? Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Oui. Moi, c'est toi, Jean Bosco, de Prolinnova Cameroun, comme Bernard vient de le dire. Je vais commencer donc par le cas Serge Ayangma, tel que présenté par Bernard. Monsieur Ayangma est un apiculteur. Il a plusieurs innovations. Alors, la première question qu'on va poser, il va d'abord venir s'asseoir ici, puisqu'il est à côté de moi, Serge. La première question qui sera posée à Serge, c'est comment est-ce qu'il a eu des interactions avec le secteur de la recherche? Serge, à toi.
Bonjour à vous. Déjà, l'apiculture chez nous est un peu encore pas très développée, et durant mes travaux avec les paysans, j'ai eu à trouver certaines approches techniques pour essayer d'améliorer nos conditions de travail. Du coup, lors de la mise sur pied de la plateforme camerounaise des apiculteurs, j'ai rencontré la grande école de recherche d'agriculture qu'on appelle chez nous la FASA, et d'autres écoles, mais aussi une organisation, un institut venu du Kenya qu'on appelle l'ICP. Et ça, c'était depuis 1980, 2016.
Avant d'aller avec l'ICP, il faut revenir à comment tu es entré en contact avec le secteur de la recherche.
Donc, à partir de la plateforme dont nous avons été sollicités par les étudiants de cette grande école de la FASA, et qui sont venus chez nous comme stagiaires. Et là, de fil en aiguille, nous nous sommes rapprochés aussi de leurs enseignants ou alors de l'école pour travailler sur certains thèmes tels que le développement des stations apicoles, la collecte des données apicoles, certains éléments tels que liés à la morphologie des abeilles, mais aussi nous avons travaillé sur les microclimats à l'intérieur des ruches dans le cadre de la production des reines d'abeilles.
Alors, maintenant, donc, vous avez fait tout ce travail. Maintenant, quels sont les bénéfices que vous, après avoir énuméré tout ce que vous avez eu comme activité ensemble, quels sont les bénéfices que vous, à votre niveau comme apiculteur, vous avez obtenu de ce travail-là, de cette collaboration?
Ok, la collaboration avec la recherche a été de nous ramener dans les détails. Hein. Qu'est-ce qu'on appelle détails chez nous? C'était de comprendre mieux l'activité abeille dans les rues, surtout dans le microclimat. Nous avons essayé d'évaluer la quantité de reines produites durant certaines périodes de l'année et en lien avec la météo correspondante ou ambiante. Donc, ça a été un grand apport dans le processus de recherche. Surtout que avant ça, nous pensions que nous pouvions produire les reines sur les 12 mois de l'année.
Ok. Bon, il y a une autre question qui vient à l'esprit là. Vous avez évoqué tout à l'heure le cas de l'ICP. Quels sont les bénéfices que vous avez eus exactement lorsque vous faites la différence entre le travail que vous avez fait avec l'Université de Tchang et l'ICP qui vient du Kenya, je pense, qui est basé au Kenya?
L'ICP, c'est le centre de recherche sur les insectes. Là-bas, la différence avec la phase A, c'était d'élargir notre champ de recherche parce qu'avec la phase A, nous avons affaire juste à notre abeille telle que c'est connu, l'Apis mellifera. Mais avec l'ICP, nous avions à ouvrir encore, à connaître encore d'autres insectes très proches de la vie des abeilles aussi, d'autres insectes pollinisateurs. Et ça ouvrait la brèche de recherche entre l'abeille Apis mellifera, les autres insectes pollinisateurs et la pollinisation, ou alors dans notre environnement. C'est un peu...
Lorsque nous avons échangé ensemble, vous avez parlé de réaliser la vidéo, du thermomètre à sonde et tout le reste là. Qu'est-ce que ça vous a apporté concrètement à votre niveau?
Oui, parlant des thermomètres à sonde ou alors comment on appelait ça, des tubes à essai. Le thermomètre en sonde, j'ai déjà parlé de ça. Le thermomètre à sonde permettait d'évaluer le microclimat qui se retrouve à l'intérieur de chaque ruche durant le processus de production des reines d'abeilles. Ces reines d'abeilles qui elles-mêmes seront mises en service dans le cadre de la production de nouvelles colonies d'abeilles. L'idée étant d'augmenter les cheptels à l'échelle basique au niveau des producteurs. C'était un peu ça. Et le thermomètre en sonde, c'est un instrument pas très disponible chez nous, en tout cas dans nos marchés. Et ça a été vraiment un grand soutien de ce côté-là.
Maintenant, oui, donc j'aimerais savoir maintenant au niveau des... Quels ont été les défis que vous avez eus au cours de ce travail, en travaillant avec les chercheurs? Les défis, les problèmes, deux ou trois maximum, mais pas beaucoup.
Nous sommes, je pense que la collaboration entre les chercheurs et nous, les producteurs, c'est encore une relation de... Ce n'est pas encore du donnant-donnant. Pour l'instant, c'est encore c'est comme si c'était d'un ordre que la recherche donne aux producteurs. Mais je pense que comme challenge, les producteurs doivent être impliqués dans le processus de recherche ou alors leurs travaux doivent être aussi pris en compte dans un premier temps. Ces travaux-là doivent être améliorés par la recherche, doivent être communiés et puis restitués à la production ou à leurs producteurs. Je pense que ce serait un peu plus disponible comme ça.
Oui, à ce niveau, ça veut dire que ça suppose qu'il y a un problème. Lorsque vous parlez de restitution, la restitution, pourquoi le problème de restitution?
Oui, parce que pour l'instant, arrêter la recherche, nous avons l'impression que la recherche conserve ses mémoires dans ses tiroirs, peut-être pour ses étudiants de là-bas. Et pour l'instant, hein, ce n'est pas encore vraiment mis à notre... Les résultats de ces enquêtes-là, de ces recherches-là, ne sont pas encore mis à la disposition. Je ne sais pas comment ça va se passer, quel est le canal qu'il faudrait utiliser pour que les bibliothèques des producteurs sont aussi fournies par ces travaux de recherche-là.
Maintenant, la dernière question qui vous sera adressée, quelles sont les suggestions, deux ou trois aussi maximum, ou recommandations que vous pouvez faire pour des chercheurs, pour que la collaboration soit meilleure dans le milieu?
Oui, par la suggestion, hein, vraiment les chercheurs, ils sont les chercheurs, ils doivent ils doivent prendre le processus de recherche et de...
Là, on ne vous entend plus, attention.
Producteurs, vous savez que tous les déjà être sans pas innovatifs, mais leur travail doit être
Attention, je crois qu'on vous a perdu. Et toi, de toute façon, comme pour des questions de temps, est-ce que vous pouvez continuer avec le monsieur et madame Ekani? Vous êtes là? Est-ce qu'on vous a perdu? Je ne vois pas. Peut-être on avait une vidéo, Julia, pour les histoires de chocolat. Je ne sais pas si vous avez ça.
Oui, c'est revenu.
Allô?
Ah, c'est revenu?
Oui, c'est revenu.
D'accord.
Oui. Donc, j'étais à la collaboration ou à la suggestion parlant de la collaboration entre les chercheurs et les producteurs. Je pense que le processus doit être un peu plus inclusif et surtout disponible auprès des producteurs. Ça pourra faire avancer vraiment la recherche. Parce qu'il y a encore un hiatus entre les travaux faits par les producteurs, repris par les chercheurs et pas restitués aux producteurs.
On va en rester là. Jean, et toi, vous pouvez reprendre l'introduction pour le deuxième agriculture, monsieur et madame Ekani?
Oui, monsieur Ekani est là.
Voilà. Donc, allez-y.
Oui, je ne sais pas.
Allez-y et essayez d'accélérer un petit peu parce que le temps est très court.
Ok, monsieur Ekani, allez-y. Alors, pour le cas de monsieur Ekani, il est producteur de cacao. Et il a eu une innovation dans la transformation du cacao pour la réduction de l'amertume à travers un produit local qu'on appelle ici le kanwa, le natron pour les scientifiques. Donc, il est là, en face de vous. Il a travaillé avec l'université de Maroua. On va reprendre le même processus, exactement la même chose comme on a fait avec M. Ekani, avec M. Ayangman. La première question, comment il est entré, en fait, on va commencer par, est-ce qu'il a eu à travailler avec le secteur de la recherche?
Oui, j'ai eu à travailler avec une étudiante de l'université de Maroua.
Oui, qu'est-ce que vous avez fait exactement ensemble?
Elle a eu à prendre connaissance déjà de nos travaux, les porter en laboratoire pour analyse et essai, et pour ensuite tirer les conclusions à leur niveau.
Alors, quelles conclusions, par exemple?
La première et la plus importante, c'est que réellement le natron permet de diminuer considérablement l'amertume dans le tourteau de cacao pour obtenir un chocolat un peu plus naturel.
Bon, en fait, pour revenir aux questions, comment avez-vous travaillé ensemble, vous et l'étudiant de l'université de Maroua?
Déjà, il faut revenir au contact. Comment est-ce que nous avons pu entrer en contact avec cette étudiante? Nous sommes inscrits dans un programme national, le programme ACFA, qui finance les GIC, c'est-à-dire les organisations de producteurs. Alors, c'est alors par l'intermédiaire de notre conseiller ACFA que nous avons contact avec l'ONG Prolinnova et par l'entremise de qui l'étudiant de l'université de Maroua arrive chez nous. Bon, elle arrive chez nous puisque ayant pris attache avec Prolinnova, on lui a présenté un certain nombre d'innovations et heureusement pour nous, elle a choisi notre innovation comme socle de sa soutenance.
Alors, maintenant là, qu'est-ce que vous, dans ce travail, vous avez bénéficié au niveau, avec le travail de cet innovateur, de cet étudiant de l'université?
Oui, le plus important des bénéfices pour l'instant, c'est le fait pour nous de savoir que ce que nous croyons être des balbutiements était en fait quelque chose qui peut apporter un bien-être à la population.
Oui, citer 2 cas, par exemple, dans ce que le travail que vous avez fait avec Madame Lavoie.
Le kanwa, comme nous appelons ici natron pour les scientifiques, est un produit naturel qu'on trouve dans nos marchés. Déjà, il est important de dire que il évite d'utiliser des produits plus chimiques, des produits chimiques. Donc, ce qui fait qu'on conserve le cacao à un état de nature assez important. Bon, il évite aussi d'utiliser beaucoup d'autres ingrédients.
Okay. Mais attendez, avant, en dehors de ce le cas du Kanwa, vous avez dit qu'avec Madame Bavois, elle vous a permis, le travail que vous avez fait ensemble vous a permis d'avoir les doses exactes qu'il faut par an.
Tout à fait, tout à fait. Nous le faisions, je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, comme un balbutiement. Bon, avec le travail de l'étudiante de l'université de Maroua, nous sommes arrivés à avoir des dosages au niveau du Kanwa par rapport aux quantités de pâte de cacao exactes à utiliser. Donc, nous sommes arrivés à un travail un peu plus pointu que par le passé, ce que nous faisions quand nous n'avions pas encore de contact avec l'université de Maroua.
Alors, on va passer à la 3e question. Quels sont les défis clés que vous avez rencontrés, que vous avez eu au cours de ce travail?
Défis. Il faut déjà savoir que le producteur a un niveau d'éducation pas assez élevé. Il faut déjà, avec les termes scientifiques et autres, arriver à se comprendre pour savoir ce que le chercheur voudrait vraiment savoir de nous, de nos activités. Premier défi. Deuxième défi, là c'est un peu des difficultés, hein. C'est un peu les difficultés parce que sur place, nous n'avons pas le matériel adéquat. Et par contre, les universités et instituts de recherche ont leurs protocoles qui ne nous permettent pas toujours de participer à la recherche dans leur laboratoire. Et ça, pour nous, c'est une difficulté, une cause de stress même.
Oui, et je pense qu'à ce niveau-là, il faut parler-nous un peu de l'expérience avec l'université de Yaoundé dans la suite du développement de votre innovation.
Justement, après les travaux avec Milly sur place, chez nous, faute de matériel adéquat, il a fallu qu'elle continue dans les laboratoires de l'université de Yaoundé 1. Et là-bas, nous n'avions pas accès au laboratoire. Nous n'avions pas accès aux démarches. Nous n'avions accès à rien du tout. Il a fallu attendre que le travail soit fini pour avoir une restitution de la recherche.
Il faut noter ici que l'université a refusé l'accès aux paysans qui étaient pourtant à l'origine de l'innovation qui était développée. Donc, maintenant, on va passer à la 4e question. Quelles sont les suggestions que vous pourrez faire au secteur de la recherche pour améliorer le travail de l'innovation, le développement des innovations?
Suggestion, il faudrait déjà que le monde de la recherche sache que le monde paysan, je voudrais dire le monde des producteurs, est un réservoir à idées de recherche. C'est un monde à prendre avec beaucoup plus de sérieux. Et ça, c'est la première proposition. Qu'on prenne le producteur avec beaucoup plus de sérieux parce qu'il peut apporter beaucoup plus d'idées de recherche. Deuxième proposition, les instituts de recherche et les universités doivent assouplir les protocoles d'accès à leur laboratoire. Souvent, le producteur, même dans les laboratoires, peut encore guider le chercheur dans ses travaux. Pourquoi? Parce que le producteur n'est pas seulement producteur. Parfois, le producteur est un chercheur qui s'ignore. Donc, il peut y avoir des pistes et des idées comme ça qui peuvent aider même dans les laboratoires. Il serait important que la collaboration soit vraiment franche entre les instituts de recherche et les producteurs.
Ok, merci à vous, M. Kani. Donc,
Merci beaucoup.
et M. Ekani et M. Ayamaki ont fait le déplacement pour Yaoundé. Maintenant, on a fini avec les principales questions qui leur étaient adressées. Si vous avez des questions particulières,
Voilà,
je remets la parole à Bernard. Merci.
Merci bien, Etoa. Thank you so much, Etoa. It was I liked very much the recommendation that the farmer's world is the world that researchers should not ignore. It is a reservoir of ideas. Vincent, are you ready with Joel Tete? Vincent, can you take over?
I'm muted, Vincent.
Go ahead, Vincent. Can you hear us?
Hello, hi everybody. I'm Vincent Mariado, the National Coordinator for Prolinnova Kenya. So in this session, we have a short video clip that will be played, but before that, I would request our innovator, Mr. Joel Tete, to introduce himself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Joel Mutua Tete from Kenya. I'm an innovator on local incubation and local brooder. This innovation is about its way of making production to be high in a few days using local ideas are formed. These ideas are formed is to use ants sitting on eggs for, I train 10 eggs or about 6, the number I have, and I give them eggs for that time. Then when they sit on them for 21 days, I hatch the chicks. Those chicks, I remove them before the hens are aware. Then I put another lot of eggs for another 21 days. This time, the hens are being fed well with water, with food, for not to be leaving the eggs as they go to look for food. So I have to feed them well. They sit for 2 to 3 periods.
Well, thank you, Tete. So we will have a short video clip. Thereafter, I'll ask him some few questions on his engagement with the researchers. Thank you. Julia, please.
I started keeping poultry using a relay of hens, sitting on eggs, removing them, and putting other eggs to watch. So in 1 month, I was producing more chicks, because if an egg, those ones I've trained to sit on them, are sitting on 15 eggs, in 21 days, I hatch 14 or 15, that average, and I put other eggs in the same hen, whereby I'm providing the hen with enough food and water not to leave the eggs before they are hatched. So in 1 month or in 42 days, I hatch another around 14. So by that way, I increased my poultry sector very easily, and it helped me a lot because of my quick production. I wanted to have production, and when I was doing this production of hens, I used the old method of incubating with the machines, and I had a very big problem whereby blackout, and when it went blackout in the 18th day, I had to lose everything. Then I decided for me to increase it in the way should go, I decided to use the relay, and it worked very well. The relay that I innovated, it reduced the cost of the electricity. Production was going very high, and the cost of the machine or cost of the of feeding them or doing them, it reduced. So I was producing a lot with little cost. On the side of medication, we innovated our local medicine, whereby we used aloe, cotton seeds, aloe when crushed and dried in the shade. That powder, we used to mix it with water and give the chicks together with cotton seeds crushed, dried in the shade, and mixed with the food of the chicks, because also cotton seeds will also increase protein, and it acts as a biotic to the chicks, and they grow very fast and very strongly.
Mike Vincent.
So it's okay. Mr. Tete had to abandon his electronic incubator due to the reasons that he has highlighted. Now, I will straight away ask Mr. Tete some few questions. To start with, Mr. Tete, how was your interaction with the PID team or the researchers that you are working with? Tete, can you hear me?
I think we have a small problem, Vincent.
Tete, can you hear me?
You are back in line.
Okay. Now.
Yes, I'm getting you right.
Okay, fine. Now, maybe you can just tell us how was your interaction or collaboration with the researchers of the PID team that you are with?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. When I started this work, I met some non-government organizations, Prolinnova, which also tried to explain to me much I can do. Then with this, it helped us to continue, and also it took me to so many exposure areas to show my work, how I does it, the innovation. For example, I was at Makindu, that was agricultural counter, agricultural show. I was at Kisumu, Obanto, Osiri area, whereby we presented our innovations there. Again, we had another one in our area, Cascale. I also represented. So with that, all those exposure areas I went, and what I'm doing in their home, I interacted with so many people, and I became famous to an extent.
Okay, and did that interaction or collaboration with that team benefit you with regards to developing your innovation in any way?
Thank you very much. It's a good question. With that interaction, I did, even today, as we talk, I have some groups of people coming to my area, to my house, to see, because my innovation, I'm doing it in their home, to see and learn more about. And I'm very happy when they come, because I try to explain to them, because I want the area people to have that motivation of doing things. When they come to buy eggs or they buy the medicine, others try to know more about what I'm doing, and they are eager to start in their areas. And also myself, I'm ready voluntarily to show them all when called by the groups, like these self-help groups.
Thank you. And any challenges that maybe you can mention as a result of your collaboration?
Yeah, as a result of my collaboration, first most, I increased my production and I became famous in the area. And I'm also looking for more. Now, the challenges we have is sometimes we have predictors, they can interfere with your work. Sometimes I'm getting problems when we lack of materials. If we don't prepare early enough as we are starting to watch, that is one problem can arise. So before that challenge, I have to try very much before I start arching. I have to look for the availabilities of all those materials needed in the arching time.
And maybe last question that I would ask, any key recommendation or suggestions that you can put forth?
I beg your pardon?
Any key suggestions or recommendations you have as a result of your collaboration with the researchers?
Thank you very much. With the researchers, they have done a lot to me. They have made me do a lot. Also, to be eager to invite more for me to benefit, and also for my family to be having even some nutrition, because with the availability of the innovation of these indigenous ends I have, also it will make me have nutrition with my family, and also will be fed well. The challenges I have with the work is only getting material when they intruders interfere with my work. But I'm trying to strengthen all the corners for me to be helping even my villagers.
Thank you very much. Bernard, I'll hand over back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much and to Mr. Tete, to the farmers, Mrs. and Mrs. Ekali, to Serge for sharing with us. So you can see the experiences are different. Each one had, like, for example, one had the students, the other one, like Mr. Tete insists, and I think it's very important, the visibility, the recognition he gets, he becomes famous to an extent. I think, Mr. Tete, that's the way you say it. And in terms of recommendation, you can see also like the need for this more inclusive process, for really having these flexible rules, especially from the academia when they have protocols that make it difficult. So we can see there is a lot of experience there. And we can also see that probably if we were more systematic, because these are farmers who have been successful, and maybe some of the difficult experiences are farmers who might not have been so successful in their interactions. So maybe we should also try to know from stories where things have been a bit more difficult. So I think we can leave it at that. I don't know if there are any questions from anybody. That somebody from the participants, from the attendees. If there are no questions, I think, Julia, we will take a break. Vincent, Etoa, thank you very much for being our facilitators, and make sure you convey our gratitude to the farmers for having made the trip to be available for the questions and for sharing their experiences. And Julia, I hand over to you.
Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful first half of this fair. We don't have too many questions from the audience. Again, you can add in your questions in the Q&A box and we'll type the answers to you. So what we'll do is we'll take a brief 10-minute break. We will come back at 10 to the hour, and we will see you then. So stretch and get some water, and we'll see you soon.
चन्द्रजी सुनिन्छ?
हाम्रो नि सुनिएछ?
अब सुन्यो। अब क्लियर छ हैन?
क्लियर छ, क्लियर छ।
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a nice break. The next session we will be listening to is Engaging Farmers in Education, moderated by Bridget Leddy, who is part of the Prolinnova IST group. Over to you, Bridget.
Thanks, Julia, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm sure it's not afternoon for everyone that's joining us today. I'm Bridget Leddy. I've been with Prolinnova for about 20 years now, I think. And I work for a non-governmental organization in South Africa called the Institute of Natural Resources. Today I'm joined by two teams, one from Nepal and the other from Cameroon. We're going to start with the discussion with Dharma and Chandra from Nepal, and then we're going to swap over into French, and some of you are going to need to jump over onto the change your interpretation option. I think before we give the two teams an opportunity to share their experiences or the experiences of farmer innovators with being involved with students and lecturers and training institutions, I think we should talk a little bit about why it's important. And Prolinnova has really been trying to mainstream these approaches. This morning you heard Anne talking about participatory innovation development and Pharma-Led joint experimentation. And these are all approaches that we want to see integrated into the work of government extension and research departments. We want to see NGOs doing it. And the only way to really get staff involved in these activities is if they learn about it during their education. We would like people to learn about it while they're students so that when they get into the workplace, it's something that just seems so obvious. rather than something that we're having to introduce people to as a completely new idea. So our first session is with Prof. Dharma from Nepal, and he's accompanied by farmer innovator Chandra Prasad. Just before I hand over to them, there is a PowerPoint. Julia, if you can show it, I'm just going to run through a few slides just to provide a bit of a background. All right, so this is just a few slides that the team put together, just to try and give you some idea of Chandra's, his innovativeness as well as his engagement with education. Thank you. Just to introduce him, Chandra lives with his family in Nepal, where he practices organic farming, and he has a farm with a very high level of biodiversity, which you'll see shortly when we show you some slides. I'm told that his farm is a living laboratory and that he experiments continuously. And he's inspired many students of agriculture who visited his farm or who've heard what he's done. He's co-authored 2 books, and he's published dozens of poems and essays. And he's been interviewed by both local and foreign media, including the BBC. I think it's amazing to see that he's welcomed over 1,000 guests and students from over 30 countries to visit his farm and see what he's doing. So here are a few of his innovations, and I'm going to talk very briefly because I haven't visited them myself. So the first one is around a system for vermiculture. That's earthworm farming, for those who don't know. And he's got a system that protects his worms, his earthworms, from predators such as birds or rats. Okay. He's also developed a system of raised fish ponds, and those are dual purpose because they both allow him to collect rainwater as well as to farm fish. He's got a very interesting system of integrating rice and fish. And you'll see in the next slide how he's innovated so that he can have water coming in and out of his rice fields without his fish, without him losing his fish. So I thought that was very interesting. Thank you. He's got a cattle shed that he's designed that allows him to collect urine, which I assume he's using in a system as a source of nutrients. So that's very innovative. Thank you. And we've heard quite a lot about breeding, land races, activities of farmers today and yesterday. And Chandra's also involved in local seed conservation, specifically around rice. And he's been responsible or been involved in collecting and conserving 114 local land races. I thought this slide was interesting because it talks about some activities that he's undertaking in partnership with the National Innovation Center, as well as the Agriculture and Forestry University. And basically he's working with them rearing black soldier fly as a source of protein. Thank you. So now there are just a couple of slides that show his engagement in educational activities. Thank you. So here he is at the Institute of Agriculture and Animal Sciences at the University of Tribhuvan. And here he's in a classroom with students and faculty staff. And here he is at the same institute, engaging in conversation with university students. And in discussion with faculty staff. So it's highlighting that his involvement is very much across from student and staff levels. This is him giving a presentation at the Agriculture and Forestry University, so another university. Thank you. And this is the last slide, and I think this really says it all. These are awards that have been presented to Chandra by students who appreciate his engagement and his time and his dedication to education. And I think that, yeah, that really says it all. So let me hand over now to Dharma and Chandra, and they're going to have a discussion and share with us a little bit more about about PRD in education. Thanks, Dharma.
Thank you, very great. I am Dharma Dangal from Nepal. I worked in the Institute of Agriculture and Animal Science of Tribhuvan University for 28 years. During that period, I was introduced with our farmer innovator, Chandra Prasad Adhikari. Now I am a retired professor, and I have been working in the Institute for Social and Environmental Research Nepal. This is NGO. This organization is very closely located to Chandra Prasad Farm. Now this organization is also decided to work and support the farmer innovators, especially in Chiton. And from the rigorous presentation, and all of you know a little bit about Chandra. Now I am going to ask few questions to our farmer innovator, Chandra Prasad. I will be interpreting both the questions and answers in English. Chandra ji.
हजुर
Yeah. तपाईं कृषि विश्वविद्यालयसँग कसरी जोडिन पुग्नुभयो?
विश्वविद्यालयका प्राध्यापक, अनुसन्धानकर्ता र विद्यार्थीहरूको सम्पर्क मार्फत कृषि विश्वविद्यालयसँग म जोडिन पुगे।
My first question was, how have you been involved with the Agriculture University in Chiton? His answer is, I have been involved with the Agricultural University in Chiton with the support of faculties, researchers, and the students. Now, I'm going to ask another question. Chandra ji.
हजुर
सो कृषि विश्वविद्यालयमा तपाईले के गतिविधिहरू गर्नुभयो?
मैले त्यहाँ एग्रो इकोलोजी विषयको कक्षा भएको बेला स्थानीय अन्वेषणको कक्षा लिएको थिएँ। मैले विद्यार्थी र प्राध्यापकहरूलाई जडीबुटी कम्पोस्ट बाट मल बनाउने सिप र प्रविधि बाँडे। प्रोलिनोभाको पार्टनर संस्था त्रिभुवन विश्वविद्यालयको कृषि तथा पशु विज्ञान अध्ययन संस्थान र कृषि तथा वन विज्ञान विश्वविद्यालयले सञ्चालन गरेको तालिम तथा बैठकहरूमा भाग लिई आफ्नो अन्वेषणका बारेमा कुराहरू पनि राख्ने गरेको थिएँ।
My second question was, what activities did you undertake? Major activities I undertook were delivered lecture on agroecology related to local innovations, shared herbal compost making technology processes with the students and the faculties, participate in relevant training programs and the meetings organized by the Institute of Agriculture and Animal Science of Tribhuvan University, that was partner of Prolinnova Nepal, and also Agriculture and Forestry University. Distributed my published papers on local innovation to the faculties and the students. Chandraji,
हजुर
मेरो अन्तिम प्रश्न, विद्यार्थीहरू इन्टर्नशिपका लागि तपाईको फार्ममा आउँदा तपाई कस्तो महसुस गर्नुहुन्छ?
विभिन्न देशहरूबाट विद्यार्थीहरू मेरो फार्ममा एकीकृत कृषि प्रणाली, स्थानीय अन्वेषण, प्राङ्गारिक कृषिको अभ्यासहरू, मेरो शैक्षिक संस्थाहरूसँगको सहकार्य र सञ्जालहरू बुझ्न तथा सिक्न आउने गर्नुहुन्छ। मलाई गर्व लाग्छ, मलाई सम्मान गरेको महसुस हुन्छ। समाज र राष्ट्रका लागि अझ धेरै योगदान गर्ने प्रेरणा पनि मलाई प्राप्त हुने गरेको छ।
My third question was, how do you feel about the students using your farm for their internship? His answer was, students from different countries have visited my farm to learn about integrated farming system, my innovations, organic agricultural practices, and the activities I carried out with different organizations, including academic institutions. I feel honored, and the visits motivate me to contribute more to the society and the nation. चन्द्रजी, तपाईले महत्त्वपूर्ण समय दिनुभयो, तपाईलाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद।
आफ्नो कुरा राख्ने जुन शुभ अवसर प्रदान गर्नुभएकोमा सम्पूर्ण आयोजकहरुमा धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु।
Thanks a lot for your valuable time. Yeah, thank you very much, Chandraji. And on behalf of Prolinnova Nepal and the Institute for Social and Environmental Research, I would like to thank Chandra Prasad Adhikari for sharing his stories, his experiences, and for his valuable time. And now I would like to hand over this floor back to Birgit Letty, the moderator of this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to both Dharma and Chandra. I think we're all so inspired to see how there's really been opportunity to integrate farm innovation into education in Nepal. I think it's just amazing. Thank you. We now move to Cameroon, and we're going to work with Etoa and Serge. I'm going to ask a few questions. Etoa, perhaps you can introduce yourself and Serge and then we can start with a few questions.
Okay. Welcome back for myself again. Serge, I am Jean Bosco Etoile, Country Platform of Cameroon, Country Platform Coordinator from Cameroon. I will be going to work in French with Serge for this session. When Bridget will ask you questions, I think I will have offered, or I will translate them directly in English. In French.
In French. Okay.
So Serge, come and sit here. It's better to see Serge when you are speaking.
You'll see Serge, not Etoile. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Right. Hello, Serge. Thank you for coming to share with us today. I've just got 3 questions that we were going to ask you to get some idea of your involvement in education. So the first question is, please, can you tell us more? I know we heard a little bit earlier, but can you tell us more about how you've been involved with staff and students at educational facilities such as universities?
Oui, Serge, il demande, Brigitte est en train de demander comment tu as été impliqué dans les stages des étudiants pour faciliter les travaux des étudiants avec les universités. Il faut d'abord nous dire les universités avec lesquelles tu as travaillé, après tu nous diras comment tu as été impliqué dans ces travaux-là.
Déjà, je travaille avec les universités de... Nous avons dit la phase d'Achang. Oui, ça est... Je travaille avec l'université de Chang, la faculté d'agronomie de Chang, l'Institut agricole de Sa, l'Institut supérieur de d'Obala. Et je travaille comme maître de stage beaucoup plus. Je ne suis pas enseignant ou professeur de là-bas, non. Je suis maître de stage dans des plans où les étudiants viennent faire leur stage professionnel chez nous. Du coup, ils viennent chez nous en fonction des thèmes, des thématiques, leurs thèmes de recherche là. Et nous travaillons sur le terrain pendant 1, 2, 3 mois. Ça dépend du niveau d'étudiant, les niveaux 1, 2, 3, 4 et 5. 4 et 5, généralement, principalement pour la phase, par exemple, qui est la plus grande école d'agronomie de chez nous. Et 4 et 5 aussi, niveau 4 et niveau 5 aussi pour l'Institut supérieur de Bala, qui est environ à 40 km de Yaoundé, la capitale. Donc, c'est selon leur thématique donc, que nous travaillons régulièrement. Et voilà. Il y a encore une autre question.
Can I continue with the second question? Hello.
Second question, Bridget.
Oh.
Sorry, I wasn't.
Bridget, you're muted. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, thanks, Serge, for that feedback. I think the next question then builds on that. And I would ask, what do you see as the real benefits of having students involved and participating on your farm? What do you see as the benefits of that?
Oui, tout dépend de la qualité de chaque étudiant, de sa moralité, de ses compétences aussi. Hein. C'est en fonction de ça que nous leur distribuons des tâches spécifiques dans notre exploitation. Ce n'est pas tous les étudiants qui nous apportent une plus-value dans l'exploitation. Parfois, nous avons tendance à vouloir refouler certains étudiants. Donc, il y a des étudiants qui sont légèrement plus avancés que d'autres et qui nous apportent aussi leur contribution intellectuelle durant nos travaux sur le terrain.
Oui, mais en dehors du cas des étudiants, maintenant dans le rapport général avec les universités, pour développement de l'apiculture. Qu'est-ce que tu trouves comme bénéfice en étant impliqué dans ces activités-là?
En réalité, avec la FASA, par exemple, nous sommes en train d'entretenir des discussions en privé avec un de leurs professeurs, un de leurs enseignants, sur le cadre général de collaboration avec les producteurs. C'est pas la collaboration avec les écoles en général n'est pas la même que la collaboration entre producteurs et étudiants. C'est vraiment deux choses. Nous n'avons pas encore, nous sommes encore dans les discussions avec la FASA, par exemple, qui fait même certaines propositions sur certaines thématiques, quoi. Et donc, nous sommes en train de réfléchir sur le cadre de travail et de concertation. Pour que, en réalité, nous sommes, le débat porte sur qu'est-ce que nous allons gagner dans ça. Nous avons peur que certains de nos travaux soient récupérés par des grandes écoles et que nous n'en profitions pas au niveau de la base, en réalité. Donc, nos travaux, généralement, se retrouvent dans les mémoires des étudiants qui sont placés dans les tiroirs de leurs écoles et la suite, nous ne connaissons pas, en réalité. Et nous sommes en train de plaider pour être déjà membre du jury même lors de soutenance de ces étudiants-là. Parce que jusqu'à présent, nous sommes maîtres de stage, nous sommes référents, mais nous n'assistons même pas, nous ne sommes même pas invités durant les présentations des mémoires, des thèses de ces étudiants-là. Ça fait déjà une sorte de frustration à la base même du rapport. Et par la suite, nous n'avons pas de documents, nous ne savons pas ce qui s'est dit, nous n'avons rien, et ces enfants repartent, ils ne font même pas finalement de sorte de stage de pré-emploi chez nous. Non, ça finit. Et 3-6 mois après, l'école nous renvoie d'autres étudiants. C'est vraiment encore bien compliqué à ce niveau-là.
Oui, à ce niveau. Donc, ça veut dire que vous avez déjà été victime de ces cas-là. Vous pouvez nous présenter quelques exemples, des cas d'appropriation
Parlant par exemple de...
Well, I think I would like to expand on this a bit more, because I think it's very sad that there are these negative interactions that have also emerged from being involved with universities. What I'd really like to ask is, does he believe that this involvement is having benefits beyond his farm or beyond the university? Is it changing the way students entering the workplace behave with farmers?
Si cette collaboration avec les universités.
Or the way that they recognize farmers?
Oui. Est-ce que cette implication avec les universités change la manière avec laquelle les étudiants viennent vers vous?
Oui, déjà, parlant de l'apiculture, qui est un peu une activité spécifique chez nous, nous avons déjà l'avantage qu'elle n'est pas assez développée en classe dans les grandes écoles. Et à notre niveau, donc, nous nous sentons vraiment impliqués dans l'encadrement de ces étudiants-là, ou alors dans la recherche. Ce qui est vrai, c'est que l'école, l'université attend de nous beaucoup de choses en termes de collaboration. Donc, du coup, nous nous voyons, nous nous sentons vraiment presque au même titre que ces études. C'est leur professeur, quoi, en fait. Mais nous sommes aussi une sorte d'encadreur bénévole pour eux. C'est ce bénévolat-là sur lequel nous sommes en train de travailler, en réalité. Il faut que le bénévolat soit quelque chose de productif par la suite. Il faut que ce soit le statut d'encadreur professionnel. Là, il faut que ce statut soit clairement dit dans le processus de développement et de collaboration entre la recherche et les producteurs. c'est pas, en tout cas au niveau camerounais, c'est que nous vivons en agriculture. Je ne sais pas comment ça se passe dans les autres filières, mais chez nous, c'est pas clairement dit. Quelle est la place que nous déjà nous avons dans la recherche? C'est pas très clair. Ah, okay.
Okay. That does bring us to the end of our session, and I want to thank Serge and thanks Etoa for sharing that with us, because I think it highlights the relationship that exists between different stakeholders and the fact that they're not always easy, and that we really need to work to see more equal sharing of roles and responsibilities. And we need to try and find ways to sort out some of these issues that are emerging that Serge has shared with us. So thank you very much, and thank you to the team from Nepal too. And at this point, I need to hand over to the moderator of the next session, Ibrahima, who's going to be talking about innovation by communities and by groups. So thanks very much.
Merci beaucoup, merci. Bonjour à tous les participants. Je suis Ibrahima Diédiou. Je suis ancien chercheur à l'Université de Thiès. Je suis membre de la plateforme Prolinnova Sénégal. Et mon centre d'intérêt en termes d'enseignement et de recherche, c'est l'agroécologie. Voilà. Nous venons donc de boucler la session qui a porté sur l'intégration de l'innovation locale et le développement participatif de l'innovation dans l'éducation. Nous allons rester sur une thématique qui est assez proche de celle-là et qui aborde aussi la problématique des aspects sociaux de l'innovation locale. Mais la présente session va nous orienter vers des communautés vulnérables d'agriculteurs au Sahel et dans ce cas précis, au Burkina Faso. Alors, comme vous le notez bien, cette session est intitulée « Innovation de groupe, renforcement des communautés, solidarité ». Elle va surtout mettre le focus sur la dimension sociale et organisationnelle de l'innovation locale. Il est question de montrer comment des groupes d'agriculteurs sont capables de s'organiser et de mettre en place un processus d'innovation basé sur la créativité et la valorisation des ressources locales pour améliorer surtout l'accès aux intrants biologiques ou encore bio-intrants de leur communauté, mais aussi permettre à leur communauté d'améliorer, disons, la productivité des terres, l'alimentation et la nutrition, mais également renforcer ou permettre en tout cas à ces communautés de s'affranchir d'un certain nombre de contraintes, en particulier la contrainte de l'utilisation des intrants industriels qui, nous le savons, quelquefois sont déjà hors de portée souvent en termes de coûts de la bourse des agriculteurs ou des communautés vulnérables, mais aussi posent d'autres problèmes que nous connaissons bien. Voilà. Et les solutions qui sont proposées ou les innovations qui sont proposées donc par ces communautés sont des innovations aussi qui renforcent la résilience de ces communautés par rapport à des contraintes actuelles telles que les changements climatiques et qui leur permet aussi d'améliorer surtout leur revenu. Voilà un peu ce que je voulais dire en guise d'introduction par rapport à cette thématique. Et je vais maintenant passer la parole au facilitateur, Chesiaka Bangali, pour qu'il nous présente, en collaboration avec les innovateurs, il nous présente les 3 innovations qui vont animer cette session. Il y a une innovation sur le biocompost, une deuxième innovation sur le biopesticide et une 3e innovation qui porte sur un aliment pour volaille ou pentade. Voilà. Chosiaka Bangali, je vous donne la parole.
OK. Merci bien, Monsieur Ibrahim Ngedou. Je suis effectivement Bengali Siaka, je suis le coordinateur Sucifan Burkina Faso. Et pour ce qui est de Sucifan Burkina Faso, la question des changements climatiques et la question aussi en relation avec l'alimentation et la nutrition est un élément très capital pour nos populations. Et à cet effet, nous avions, pour vous faire savoir un peu comment les Burkinabés Allô, vous m'entendez? D'accord. Donc, à ce niveau, nous avions trois groupes. Oui. À ce niveau, nous avons trois groupes. Et le premier groupe, c'est un groupe de femmes qui a en fait le biocompost est composé de matières premières agricoles. Donc, on a les résidus de récolte. Nous avions aussi la question des débris d'animaux. Donc, il faut valoriser. Et aussi, on a aussi la question de l'eau, comment il faudrait à tout moment arriver à rationaliser l'eau pour la production de ce compost. Donc, elles ont développé cette technique-là avec ARFA, qui est une structure de recherche paysanne aussi qui est au niveau de l'Est et au nord du Burkina Faso. Et lors de nos investigations, lors de notre première phase de Prolinnova, ces femmes ont été identifiées. Elles sont au nombre aujourd'hui de 44 femmes. Elles sont dans une unité de production. Donc, pour ne pas être trop long, je vais laisser le soin au groupe de pouvoir se présenter. Le deuxième groupe, ce serait un groupe de paysannes aussi qui travaillent sur les biocomposts. Biopesticides. Voilà. Et elles sont au niveau de la zone du Nord, mais dans la commune de Bonfaçon. Elles ont pu mettre sur pied au moins 5 types de produits bio qui traitent en tout cas les ennemis des plantes maraîchères et des légumineuses. Voilà. Donc, dans la zone, en tout cas, elles sont bien reconnues. Elles sont même devenues des experts pour, en tout cas, l'INERA et autres structures ou projets qui sont dans la zone. En termes de renforcement des capacités, en termes aussi de formation des autres paysans et paysans. Et le dernier groupe, c'est pour dire qu'il y a une succession, puisque nous utilisons beaucoup les chiens d'animaux. Donc, dans la zone aussi, on n'utilise pas beaucoup. L'élevage et l'agriculture sont des domaines inséparables. Il faut être un bon agriculteur, un bon éleveur, il faut arriver à cultiver ou élever. Et comme nous sommes dans la zone désertique, il faut éventuellement du compost. L'engrais, en fait, a montré ses limites dans ces zones. Donc, c'est ce qui montre un peu la construction de ces innovations-là. Donc, sans tarder, je vais laisser le point pour que le premier groupe travaille sur le biocompost. Ils sont dans la zone de Niesca, dans la commune de Boussi, province du Zandoma, dans le nord. Voilà. Donc, monsieur l'interprétateur, vous pouvez commencer à faire votre présentation. Bonjour. C'est Tabou Aminata, c'est la présidente du groupement qui fabrique le compost.
Avec l'accompagnement des chercheurs, nous avons pu mettre en place un bon compost parce que c'est la désertification qui nous a amené à produire le compost. Parce que nos sols sont pauvres, les récoltes, les rendements sont faibles. Donc, c'est tout ça qui nous a amené, en collaboration avec les chercheurs, à mettre en place du compost que nous mesurons avec des sacs maintenant pour pouvoir mettre dans nos exploitations et pouvoir vendre à nos producteurs aussi. Moi, c'est Udrao Amida, qui est le secrétaire du groupement. Les bénéfices que nous avons tirés par rapport à la collaboration, c'est qu'il y a une cohésion. Il y a une cohésion entre les groupes. Et aussi, nous avons pu avoir des revenus substantiels dans la production du compost. Donc aujourd'hui, avec l'accompagnement des bénéfices, donc chaque femme peut bénéficier 30 000 par mois dans la production du compost. Les rendements sont augmentés. Si on avait une charité de récolte, présentement avec le compost, nous arrivons à 3 charités. Donc, ça veut dire que le compost est tellement bénéfique pour nous. Donc, les difficultés que le groupe a rencontrées, c'est surtout l'eau et aussi l'équipement et les matériels pour pouvoir produire. Notre suggestion est que dans l'accompagnement, qu'on puisse avoir de l'eau pour pouvoir produire le compost, qu'on puisse avoir un accompagnement en élevage pour aussi produire en quantité, parce que présentement, nous produisons 2500 sacs par an et nous voulons avec l'accompagnement produire 5000 sacs par an.
Monsieur Bangali.
Oui.
Monsieur Bangali. Nous pouvons ensuite utiliser les vidéos, peut-être faire passer les vidéos pour gagner du temps. Pour le reste.
D'accord. D'accord, ça marche.
Merci.
Okay.
Donc, pour les suggestions, nous souhaitons avoir une hangar pour pouvoir stocker Et le compost, là, le compost ne doit pas stocker sous le soleil. Voilà. Donc, c'est ce que, en tout cas, nous voulons demander pour la campagne.
Donc, le premier groupe, voilà ce qu'il voulait partager avec vous pour cet instant. Merci. Est-ce qu'on peut aller au deuxième groupe?
Voilà, pour les autres groupes, nous pouvons faire passer les vidéos.
OK. Donc, il y a le groupe...
non, ce groupe a déjà passé. Bang Borba, Abaya Yam Totulinga, Tixi Wang, Tumo Wang, Yaboy of Tor Song Yam Tum, the Tor King Tower.
Lula Sawaka Minata. Yeah, good for Tower Trouble. And it on tomb there. Yeah, on the tomb that for me tomb the hair so. I love one of the videos. The woman I'm saying, Alpha and Boyard. Man, go don't go. At the hand of Moha, bit corner board of poor. At live a car. At the below be. The tomorrow man, at the tomb they came down.
La pose barca. Nambo something amunigemenga, you lessonre. Let Winigatondo, Tumda Ayodo, Niyamba, Yabo.
You lazy the fat. Put back of Naba. The yard, tons and yodan. A man of a ton Tenganga live no. A yibu, a tip of ton Zakasa Bass in the people find you the elephant on an net. So on the city when it come. I don't know.
Barca. Donc, na kosamete ya munigemenga, le song tono ya zule buse, la yam seria, tum da zugo.
Namla sawadaga tene, am yo kopi. Ton julai nga, ton di kom, ton batar kom. Ba ton tum tera, ton ket nate magasin son.
Dawoto. Donc, na le wa pa na nenge. Yamrabo ne tumda tawrweng yamrabo ne bang borba yara pour ya bun kete yam data to bien yamba.
Ton data bien ton there. On that to bien ton ne koma weng. La bien ton ne tumda ne king tower.
OK, donc ça auto na pousse barka.
Le micro. Activez votre micro.
Allô? Monsieur Djedjou?
Votre micro est activé, Djedjou.
Oui.
Je voulais dire qu'en fait, on a répété un peu le même groupe là.
De passer les deux vidéos. Ensuite, nous allons prendre les questions. Et les innovateurs vont pouvoir apporter des éclairages.
Sans problème.
Voilà.
Tumda Nambo sameti yamunigemenga la to tondo yam tumda pour yam ne sampam l'armentar ne bang borba ya boy to tem yam tumda zugo munigemenga nanda
Mamla Asida Aisata. Ya président du groupe de recherche de team Ren saya ne ton ne bang borba ton sampam nyari ton sampam nyari ton rakanda ya se kwadba ko to sin la lagmantara we nyaara wengi yitame ti ton pam ti bula nan zabne itni da beba rinda pourrin ton gesa manti ton di ya kwam damba na santima me rabia tuo a lebin tara zuloisi wa ba budu wa kot ni sala ya rila ton me kelen zindin taxi namba ti bula ti sanda gese pinin dare ti mo rabi me an toy zabne bieb haliti ya soma la nyara pour la idgesa me ton zindin taxin pam ti bulka teka la de bang e befane team en toy zabne de idgesi da bieba la leben yi pame ti ya soma ti kwam ton yakandi ti bum pamane.
Barka. Donc, nambo santi ya mundi menga. Le tour tondo sans ya ne tumda pour. Ya buen nafre. Le am pamia. Sans ne yara jugo.
Amdullah zida awa. Amya sewonon kosula. Aya ne tondo sulo kora. Nabo ni tondo. Tom hana kodo wala zeda. Antuga tom pam dan nafuri. Tom kodo kiyadam. Bati boy na santima digya tugo. Donc la ton hana dikir motitan tipi adigya pa tuwe. Donc ton pam da usoro nafuri dat pa dépense usoro. Pour me ton komba hana yakandi. Ton pa ye passe ya batal passe na kombi. Ali bon konta ton arjet me. Ton pa yi somo de mesi.
Barka. Donc dans le royaume jugo. So to si tondo e ya bon sulwera le yam seria. Jule bediam hans. Ok, zabar kibare. So ambo samti yamun ge menga. Le wini tondo sa ne yam tum da po. Ya boy le yam tum da ton teme. Sa yam ne bang mitba sam penataba. Ya boy ton teme yam tum na.
Amla sankara domiki. Hina bugala aliba ba boyang. Ton me ton pa yam ninga liba yam. Man nti hina kenga tawre apuma ito wawi la atum tera bala nang kat sama de wakat ninga tum tera hankai ko kenga we mo ti to we ti pa tutura ba ni nam hedan
ba na bo samti amun ge menga le to tondo tumda nyodo sunna fiam ya boy
mamla sankara musa sa nen tumda nyor na tondo tonda fami kina riba nano ton honda bunda tunda la ya tandiado ya mogodo la kafiba la tonda yak don konti kina la ton han pam zam zo han tu yoba se sababa itam ti ton bang riba mano ma ton konti kina ti wakat fa ton pam wa dal fa ton konta no la tama ti kina shekir kina ma ha wala itamenti mamo hawto kina lopa lebra wusoro yidwa pinda danse pa wa isa riba sala
donc na le bon yam nange yam to ton tum da poa ya boy zulese la yam serda
zulesa wala kamana pan karawata tum tero anam pam kamana wakata wat mbe wat ton pam bingi song da bilbil hambare kama momra watun kai baya tum ti ton menga tum pam ma tam pam song le data som ti tolon tum ne mandi da wa tin mi song dam
nanti vasa ne yamba sa ne woto ya yam rabo ne tum da na king tawre yam lagmantara ne wala bang bawrba na yam raba ya boy mo ha
ton raba ya ton keta mbebe aba réponse au point ton raba ya wala kelen songdo watum tira wenge asa seramba wala wakaninga tum tira pa ngasa wa ya turu la sampa no song.
Merci beaucoup. Merci, Monsieur Siaka Bangali. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous résumer rapidement les 2 dernières vidéos, rapidement, l'essentiel? On va passer aux questions.
Merci. Pour la... OK. Pour la vidéo des femmes qui font le biopesticide, en fait, c'est une recherche qui a commencé avec l'association Diobas. Et Diobas, c'est une association qui fait en fait la promotion des savoirs locaux au niveau du Burkina Faso depuis les années 1987. Donc, ce groupe a travaillé, ils sont dans une zone de maraîchage, on a un barrage qui a été fait par un opérateur économique. À ce niveau, les produits ne posent aucun problème au niveau des maraîchers-cultures. Et c'est beaucoup plus demandé au niveau des autres barrages, des autres périmètres aménagés dans le pays. Donc, ça veut dire que le produit ne suffit même pas pour qu'elles puissent peut-être même utiliser dans leur propre exploitation. Donc, à ce niveau, ils ont 5 produits qui luttent contre tous les ennemis et autres attaqueurs des cultures maraîchères et légumineuses. Pour ce qui est du deuxième groupe, et nous sommes dans une zone où l'élevage de la volaille est beaucoup plus élevé. C'est en fait l'épargne locale en fait, du paysan au niveau du Burkina Faso. Mais la question des pintades posait beaucoup de problèmes au niveau de ces producteurs-là. Comment faire pour avoir des pintades? Les pintades ici, vous savez que nous avions besoin effectivement de leur viande, mais nous avons besoin aussi des œufs. Donc les œufs plus la viande, ça procure beaucoup plus en tout cas de revenus au niveau des ménages pauvres au niveau du Burkina Faso. Mais le constat, c'était qu'on avait une mortalité très élevée des pentados. Pour avoir 150 pentados, au bout d'un mois, 2 mois et demi, vous perdez toute la basse-cour. En ce moment, ils ont commencé maintenant à réfléchir pour voir, est-ce que c'est l'alimentation, est-ce que c'est peut-être l'entretien, qu'est-ce qu'il fallait faire? Donc, ce groupe s'est mis depuis les années 2013 à travailler un peu là-dessus pour avoir un composé en tout cas qui est là. Et ce composé, si je ne me trompe, aujourd'hui, c'est beaucoup demandé au niveau des producteurs et surtout des grands éleveurs, même les fermes, comment on appelle ça, les fermes modernes.
Merci.
Donc, voilà ce que je... Merci.
D'accord. Merci. Donc, nous allons prendre les questions maintenant sur les 3 innovations. Oui, Ali, vous voulez parler?
Oui.
Il y a des questions, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
D'accord. S'il n'y a pas de questions, je pense que nous pouvons faire la synthèse de la session et passer à la session suivante. Voilà, merci donc, merci. Nous avons eu droit donc à 3 innovations qui ont porté sur... le premier, c'est sur le biocompost, le deuxième, c'est sur les biopesticides et le troisième, sur la production d'un aliment pour la volaille et les pintades. Mais nous pouvons retenir que ces innovations, en tout cas, ont permis de trouver une solution à des problèmes majeurs au niveau du Sahel, en particulier la baisse de la fertilité des sols, mais aussi l'autre problème qui est un des goulots d'étranglement de la promotion de l'agroécologie au niveau du Sahel, le déficit en intrants biologiques. Voilà. Et ces innovations ont permis donc de mettre au point ces intrants bio, mais en plus, ce sont des intrants qui sont accessibles du point de vue, quand on regarde les coûts, ce sont des innovations qui sont accessibles, basées sur les ressources locales. Et donc, nous pouvons retenir aussi qu'il y a eu quand même une collaboration avec les chercheurs pour ce qui a été permis d'améliorer les innovations. On l'a bien noté. Mais cette collaboration reste encore être un peu timide, puisque les innovateurs ont mentionné le fait qu'au début, ils n'étaient pas en partenariat avec les chercheurs. C'est par la suite qu'ils ont commencé à collaborer avec les chercheurs. Je pense que c'est un axe qu'il faut renforcer. Ils ont souligné aussi un certain nombre de contraintes pour mettre à l'échelle ces innovations. Et ces contraintes, ce sont des contraintes d'ordre souvent matériel. Et il paraît important, en tout cas, de continuer l'accompagnement de ces innovateurs pour mettre à l'échelle ces innovations qui peuvent permettre aux communautés vulnérables d'accéder aux intrants bio et d'améliorer à la fois la qualité des sols, mais aussi leur productivité, les revenus, et mais aussi de faire face à des contraintes soulevées tout à l'heure par Bangali, notamment les changements climatiques. Voilà, merci. Merci. Nous avions jusqu'à 14h49. Je pense que nous pouvons passer à la session suivante. Il n'y a pas de questions, je crois. Voilà. Merci.
Bridget?
I'm here. Right. Thanks very much, Ibrahima. That was very interesting. We're on to the last session of the afternoon. And this is really around social innovation and community resilience. I'm here with my colleague Zanele. Is it possible to show her, have her on the screen?
Yeah.
So, welcome, Zanele. Zanele and I both work for the Institute of Natural Resources. I mentioned that was in Pietermaritzburg in South Africa. And we've both been involved in working with and supporting smallholder farmers for, I don't know, Zanele, like nearly 20 years, I'm sure. And we've also both been involved a lot with looking for, identifying and supporting local innovation. And when people talk about innovation, I remember it might have been Shesha early yesterday or earlier today was saying that people recognize technical innovations more so than they recognize social innovations. And I think it's important to bring this up because for many communities, these are the kind of innovations where people either, well, there are different types of social innovation. The one that we're going to talk about today, and which perhaps has the most application, is where people form social arrangements that allow them to either engage in collective action that opens up opportunities, or there were a couple of examples that we had from where we work that Zanele and I were thinking about, and the one was a case from the Okohlamba area where a group of crop farmers had reinstated a traditional practice that had died out. It's a practice called Ilima, and basically it's where a group of farmers come together and they go from one farm to the other and they assist each other with plowing. And while this is a traditional practice, it had died out, and I think one would look at it as being an innovative activity in terms of coming up with this new approach to solving the problem of lack of access to labor. The other type of, then a couple of other types of social innovation which are perhaps worth referring to. The one is where people take on roles that are not generally allocated to them. So for example, a woman taking on the role of plowing or handling livestock in communities where that's really not commonly done. That would be seen as a social innovation. And then we could also talk about institutional innovations in terms of relationships that are established between different stakeholders. And it's a case that Zanele and I worked with quite some time back, where a group of smallholder farmers were growing a new crop. It was a type of pepper called a cherry pepper. And a relationship was brokered with a commercial farmer close by that allowed them to then access a market, a processing facility. And I think in this particular case, what's quite interesting is that that relationship was brokered by the Farmer Support Group, which is an outreach arm of the local University of KwaZulu-Natal. And so it highlights the roles that external people can play in supporting these processes, because it was quite difficult for the smallholder farmers to have engaged directly with the pack house or with the commercial farmer. So we've got a short video which we're going to show. It's a video that Zanele and one of our interns, Nolwazi, prepared recently. It's a case of social innovation that we came across through another project. And I think it talks to this idea of collective action and what it can achieve. So Julia, over to you. Thanks. I wonder if I should talk to it so that it can be translated into French. Okay.
Lana abantu abami indawo yasempendle esikhuthini sasenguka. Lana esigcemeni sasemapanekeni. Kusho ukuthi le ndawo esakhe kuyona la indawo ebizwa ngokuthi semapanekeni, imizi yakhona U7. Ukubona ukuhlupheka kokuntuleka kwamanzi, sazama sahlangana kule mizi le U7 semapanekeni, kodwa ukuthi ihlukene phakathi mayiphelele yonke U14, bo14 kwindawo, bo7 kwindawo, bo7 ngapha. Kusho ukuthi ngapha la sikhona su7. Sazama-ke sase-4 leso sikhathi sazama ukuxhumana ukuthi sifuna si-organize amanzi ukuthi singathola ngayiphi indlela. Kusho ukuthi imfula sinayo-ke isiphahle phakathi ngapha nangapha. Ukuhlupheka-ke singenayo amanzi, imali sazama-ke ukuhlanganisa imali. Sabonisana ukuthi une-chance ukuthi angathola amapayipi ethola imali awathenge, yobe sefonela abanye abatshela ukuthi hayi sengiwatholile mina ngiwathengile. Ngawathola kuqala-ke mina ngoba ngisebenza i-coke starter, ngawathenga i-coke starter, ngawalayisha ngabuya nawo ngeza ngaphezu year 2000. Ngawatransporta futhi ngawabuyisa ngaze ngazowabeka la thenga December nge-2000. Sase sesiwafaka. Sase ufoke leso sikhathi sawafaka amapayipi yonke le mizi ewu4 yawathola amanzi. Bakhaka abanye size sibe u7 nabo sabaxhumela khona lapha amanzi. Kusho ukuthi-ke kwathi emva kwesikhashana ngabe sengiyempendle ngathola ukubuzisa empendle ukuthi ngathola kanjani ithange njengoba ngibona amathange egcwele kamasipala. Ukuthi abantu bakamasipala kababa nomusa bathi cha hayi ithange singakunikeza mahhala. Abangilayishela futhi ngetransport yabo badeliver leza la saxhuma ngoba amanzi ethu ayekhona kodwa engenayo ipressure. Kodwa ngokuthi isikhathi sifaka ithange lemali abane-pressure sakwazi nokulima sitshale njengoba ninibona nje. Ukusho ukuthi lapha la siphume khona amanzi betakazi. Njengobone le ndawo yala inentaba. Kusho ukuthi njengalapha amanzi ephuma khona aphuma entabeni eplazini lomunye umlungu la ngaphezulu. Asazongena ka-location. Asuka lapha aphuma entabeni athi azofika la thina asewumfula. Kusho ukuthi akusona isiphethu. Ibe khona-ke eminye imihosho-ke yeziphethu la phezulu entabeni nayo iclean ingenela khona kulo mfula, kodwa nje wona nje lo mfula nje uphuma entabeni eplazini. Ngibona amanzi akhona eclean. akusona nje isiphethe ukuthi mhlambe siyashe ebusika umfundo ohlala u-right ubusika nehlobo asinalo uvalo lokuthi ungasha amanzi singabi nawo.
Abanye abantu kwezinye indawo mhlambe la eNguga ke noma eMpendle kukhona yini mhlambe abantu asebeke basondela nini ukuzocobelela ulwazi ukuthi nina nenza kanjani mhlambe nababa nenkinga efanayo kwezinye igodi ezakhele le ndawo.
Ndodakazi njengalana nje eQuthini yabolanda kuthi isikole saseQuthini ngothi ngiphazama kancane ukukhombisa ipipe labo bane-pipe nabo abalifake lapha elihamba right through lize lofika le kodwa ngomningi babo alina control ufika emzini yabo bengenamanzi engaphuma amanzi empompini benakele nomunye ubheke omunye nomunye ubheke omunye uyayazi ke into yabantu abaningi nomunye athi ngeke kwandodakazi ngibona kungcono kakhulu ukuzifakela amanzi kunamanzi abathi ugobe iqolo nje la abafakwa ugovernment ngoba kuyenzeka kuphela amasonto awu-8 njengalana nje sesiqede 8 months or 9 months singenawo amanzi amasipala kodwa mobona amanzi nina nisifakele wona lapho ngokuswana kwenu kungcono nokulungiseka kwakhona nakona la wethu kuyenzeka ukuthi abloke mali linile izulu sikwazi-ke sihambe sifike sikhiphe leyo doti lapho emapayipini siphinde siwubuyisela amapayipi kahle siwavulela siwavula khona ukuthi kuphume lelo daka kuqala sibuye siwaxhume futhi ahlangane. Sisi siwafakile amanzi thina kusukela kwi-2000 asisange sibe nankinga siba nenkinga yokuthi linile izulu kakhulu ukwazi ukuthi ipayipi-ke lithanda ukumuva lapha phezulu la sixhume khona. Ngiyabonga badala.
Thank you, Zanele, for sharing that with us. I had a few questions that I thought would perhaps just generate a bit more thought and discussion. The first one is that it's become clear to me over time that quite a lot of the innovation cases that we come across have different components of innovation within them. What would be your view on that?
Hello, everybody, and thanks, Bridget, for inviting me to this session. As it is pointed out in the video, in this particular case, what we see is a technical element of an innovation that is the making of the system of pipes that connects water to the respective households, while there is also a social mobilization component where we see members of the community coming together to collectively manage and maintain the system as a collective in this particular case that we've just seen.
So it's quite interesting that Babduma says that other sub-villages have also implemented the system, but they don't seem to work as well.
Yes. Yes, Bridget, what is happening here in this particular case of Emapanegen, we see a clear display of collective coordination and also leadership from the side of the community to ensure that the pipes are maintained and that there is fair sharing of water in between the households, whether it's for for household consumption and also for the irrigation of their own cropping systems or the gardens that they have.
Yeah, I mean, it also this case also shows us that there really are roles for other stakeholders to get involved in supporting these local innovation processes.
Yes, what we see here is that the municipality, the local municipality, was when approached by the community again, which again highlights the significance of collective action, is to say that the community was able to approach the municipality, and the municipality came on board and supported and strengthened the innovation through the provision of the water tank to actually boost the pressure of the water so that it can be accessible by all the members of the households residing in that particular area.
So what's clear from this story that Babduma tells us is that social innovation really does it's an effective way of building the resilience and independence of rural communities.
Absolutely, Bridget. Yes, we really need to find ways to support and strengthen these processes and also allow for the cross-learning between communities that are engaging in similar activities, which is what we, as an organization working with this particular community, we, like we started with documenting this particular case, but with the view to say that we would want this kind of information and the coming together and the social innovativeness that has been displayed by the community of Mapanegene to be shared as wide as possible within the respective communities.
Thanks very much, Zanele. I think that brings us, I think we have a minute, so I think that brings us to the end of our session. Thanks very much. At this point, I think we need to hand over to Sabina Dorlich-de-Sosa. She's from Miserio in Germany. Miserio is funding quite a lot of Prolinnova related work or work being done by Prolinnova partners. And Sabina is going to be giving the closing statement for the day. So thanks very much. Over to you.
Okay, I hope everybody can see and listen. So maybe, first of all, thank you very much for these insights into the various work of Prolinnova networks worldwide. Let me first introduce myself shortly. I'm Sabine Dorlich-de-Sosa. I'm working as Rural Development Officer since 20 years at Miseria. I'm sociologist and geographer and working in the field of African rural development since 1986. So, and all these years I had been for quite a long time also in different countries, mainly 10 years in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Maybe a few words on Miseria. Miseria is a faith-based organization based in Germany. We only on the African continent, we have approximately 150 ongoing projects all over the continent. And alone in West Africa, we have 6 Pharma-Led research projects currently. So let me start with my closing words and closing remarks. Yes, I think it was very rich, and that's why I had to compromise. And let me just give you a short overview about the structure. I first want to share some ideas about the vision which we might follow during the next years. Then I wanted to put the work we are doing together with the farmers, small-scale farmers all over into a more historic perspective. Then I want to link the work on Pharma-Led joint research to the movement of agroecology. And finally, I will just give some few ideas about the way forward and the homework we certainly have to work on the next years. So let me start with the first part. So let us work that Pharma-Led joint research becomes the rule. The last 2 days have once again testified the huge creative potential for agricultural innovation that participatory innovation approaches offer. They have clearly shown the range of issues that farmers innovators cover and the potentials that farmers can tap through their own solutions and innovations they develop. We also saw the challenges in the relationship between farmer innovators and scientific researchers. Furthermore, the testimonies presented also bear eloquent witness to a common vision for a different future, not only for agricultural research, but for a different agricultural development, which puts small-scale farmers in the driver's seats. Let me share some elements that were mirrored in the innovation processes shared, which could be seen as pillars of a common vision for a future institutionalized pharma-led joint research. We want to see that first, farmers and researchers work as equal partners and respect each other's knowledge systems. Secondly, we want to see that farmers are supported in their breeding of farmer seed varieties in a decentralized way, and farmer-managed seed systems are really strengthened. Third, farmer innovations are recognized by formal agricultural extension services in the same way as innovations from scientific research. Fourth, but not the last idea, we want to see that farmers innovators have easy access to formal financial services to support their continuous research and innovation efforts, as well as to set up small enterprises to spread their innovations. However, we all know that this vision is far from reality. A key question for the implementation of a shared vision will be what institutional framework is needed to achieve it. However, today, more than ever, small-scale farmers worldwide are in distress and increasingly marginalized. So let us therefore not forget the persisting small-scale farmers' unfriendly policy they live in. In a nutshell, I present some of the underlying root causes of this unfriendly policy environment. For those working in Africa, this might be more familiar than for other countries, but the structural adjustment programs of the 90s and 80s of the last century really dismantled rural services such as extension services, funds for boosting agricultural assets, animal health services, agricultural banks, etc., of which the negative consequences are still being felt by farmers today. Secondly, the change of paradigm that has taken place in many countries' agricultural policy towards an industrial, large-scale and mostly mechanized agriculture, and thus an abandonment of small-scale family farming as the backbone of rural development. Furthermore, there are alliances of multinational companies, foundations, national governments seeking to disseminate the Green Revolution, including genetic engineering, which is also somehow occupying too much of household budgets in the respective countries. And fourth, the introduction of seed legislation, notably UPOV 91, that pushes farmers managed seed systems and farmer seeds into illegality. So this unfavorable policy environment evolved, although smallholder farmers with farms of less than 2 hectares produce more than 70% of the world's calories, despite holding only 30% of the cultivated land on the planet. While their significant contribution to feeding the world's population is widely recognized, this is unfortunately not reflected in smallholder-friendly policies in the respective countries. However, while the general framework conditions might not seem very bright, there's hope. In many countries worldwide, there's a growing movement in favor of an alternative agricultural model. Let us therefore forge more and stronger alliances to put small-scale farmers in the driver's seat for an agroecological development. The growing agroecological movement worldwide is built on farmers' movements, civil society alliances, as well as a growing number of scientists and research institutes working on a scientifically based concept of agroecology. These main actors share the conviction that agroecology is a viable path to sustainable and diversified agricultural systems in harmony with ecology, enabling smallholder farmers to secure their livelihoods and get a fair share in the reformed agriculture and food system. Looking at the ecological movement and the community of practice of farmer-led joint research, both share common features. I just share three, but there are certainly more. So first, both work on local solutions adapted to the specific farming system and specific sociocultural and environmental context. Secondly, both approaches are based on processes of co-creation in which farmers and scientific knowledge are both mutually reinforcing each other. And third, both put small-scale farmers in the center, that means in the driver's seat. However, while there is certainly an overlap in terms of actors, there seems to be still a huge potential to mutual inspiration. In particular, the development of agroecological production systems could benefit from farmer-led joint research methodological approaches and experiences. So moving forward to the way, what's next? What should we do as homeworks? Prolinnova and all the other like-minded actors in the community of practice have pioneered farmer-led research over the last 20 years. I think Chris Mokolo yesterday morning really summarized very nicely the development path of Prolinnova network. The last 2 days have shown that already a lot has been achieved, especially in terms of refining the approach, professionalizing the actors, and in terms of farmers' innovation. Most of what we saw as innovations has been highly creative, cost-effective, based on locally available resources, and therefore easy to adopt by small-scale family farmers. Nonetheless, we are all just at the beginning of the journey towards institutionalizing farmer-led research. We need to continue our work to convince our other actors, including influential ones, that farmer-led research is an effective and more sustainable method that can make a valuable contribution to agricultural development. We have to put forward central arguments why farmer-led research is more promising than conventional research approaches. I just want to share 3 of those arguments with you. First, farmer-led research is more likely to follow small-scale farmers' motivation and logic. For example, when farmers do crossbreeding of seeds, they will certainly apply very different kind of criteria for breeding than in classical breeding projects. Secondly, farming systems differ tremendously according to the specific agroecological context. Consequently, the obstacles, constraints, as well as their potential differ. Farmer-led research approaches are more likely to deal with small-scale farmers' priorities compared to formal agricultural research. Third, innovations have not only to fit into complex farming systems, but have to consider the differing asset endowments of farmers belonging to different social strata. It is more likely that farmers themselves work on appropriate solutions to their specific abilities and constraints. For example, resource-poor farmers in Africa are very likely to face constraints regarding access to labor, which is often ignored in classical research processes. In order to be even more convincing in future, we have to work on a whole bunch of homeworks, from my opinion. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list. So let me just share the following work to be done. First, the documentation on the innovation needs to be further developed by highlighting the relevance of the various innovations and providing facts and figures to prove it. This will be highly important, especially for those who are not in our community of practice. There's still a lot of conceptual work to be done in terms of dissemination of innovations. So one lesson learned so far, which also came out during our 2 days event, is that the dissemination should start right from the beginning and local innovators should play a key role in it. Third, the exchange of innovations between actors, between organizations and countries, or between the continents seems still to be tentative. taking inspiration from innovations developed elsewhere, according to the copyleft principle, can still be strengthened. Fourth, more efforts need to be made to integrate young scientists into practical Pharma-Led research. I think we had a very interesting session on it, and it has nicely shown the challenges in this field. There is still a lot of things to do to ensure that Pharma-Led joint research methods are really part and parcel in university curricula. So last but not least, practical Pharma-Led research needs to be complemented by lobbying and advocacy work to ensure that recognition of the approach is matched by the necessary financial support in different countries. So coming to an end, let me express my great pleasure to have participated in this first edition of the virtual Global Pharma Innovation Fair. My thanks go to the main organizers, both in front of and behind the scenes, as well as the facilitators and pharma innovators in each country for all their exciting and valuable contributions. Meeting virtually with pharma innovators is an inspiring exercise, especially under the current pandemic. I personally look forward already to a second edition of this virtual Global Pharma Innovation Fair. Saying this, I will hand over to Lauren Cardelli, who will tell us what steps are planned after our 2 days event. Thanks a lot and see you soon in another framework. Bye.
Thank you, Sabine. Wow, we're wrapping up here. What an amazing day. We're on time. That was incredibly successful. And I'm just so grateful to have worked with every one of you all, to hear our stories, to get to know the Prolinnova team all the more. Please know that we will be sending out all of the slides from the event first to everyone with the videos and any kind of attachments or pictures. And then within a couple of weeks, we hope to be releasing the videos and a digital brochure that sums up everything that went on the event. So we're very grateful for all of you here. Stay tuned to the amazing work that Prolinnova is doing under the amazing leadership of the IST team. They're an inspiration to everything that we have done at A Growing Culture. Thank you to Julia, Justin, and Brendan, and the AGC team for doing incredible work behind the scenes and in front. We couldn't have done this without you, and we're so grateful to have you on our side. So thank you, everybody. Good day, good night, good morning, depending on where you are. We hope that this year, of everything that it brings more justice to the world's farmers, and that we continue to center them in every area we can, because a food system that nurtures the ones who grow our food is the one thing that we can all agree on. So please, looking forward to the next event. Have a good one, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone. Till the next one.
Wonderful job, everyone. It was great connecting.
Thanks, Julia.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.